Chapter 448. Heavily injured. When the blood-red lotus bloomed in the sky, countless cultivators in the dark forest raised their heads to look at it. Their eyes were filled with awe. Although they had never personally experienced the power of the blood-red lotus, the terrifying aura emanating from the lotus alone was enough to make most cultivators tremble in fear. They knew that this move was not something an ordinary cultivator could use. It probably required a cultivator at the ultimate emperor realm or above to use such a terrifying move. In another part of the dark forest, two graceful figures were rapidly traversing through the forest. However, they quickly stopped and raised their heads to look at the distant horizon. The two graceful figures were extremely shocked when they saw the gigantic blood-red lotus blooming in the sky. They were stunned for a moment. What terrifying power! I wonder which monster is fighting. Hong Lian, who was dressed in a red dress, covered her cherry lips with her jade-like hand. Her beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. This aura is so familiar. Beside Hong Lian stood a beautiful woman dressed in a blue veil. She was Qing Lian from the Jade Maiden Star Court. At this moment, Qing Lian's brows were slightly furrowed. Her beautiful eyes were fixated on the blood-red lotus in the distance. There was a trace of surprise on her face. Senior sister Qing Lian, what's wrong? Do you know who's using this terrifying blood-red lotus? Hong Lian asked curiously when she saw Qing Lian's astonished expression. Qing Lian shook her head and said, "No. I just feel that the aura of this blood-red lotus is somewhat familiar. However, I don't think it's him. After all, this blood-red lotus is too powerful. I'm afraid it's already at the ultimate emperor realm. He shouldn't have such strength." Hong Lian's cherry-red lips curled up slightly when she heard this. She slyly glanced at Qing Lian and said, "Senior sister Qing Lian, the him you're talking about wouldn't be Zhuowen, right?" Qing Lian's delicate body trembled when she heard this. She rolled her eyes at Hong Lian and said, "You always like to make wild guesses. Why are you suddenly talking about Zhuowen?" "Hee. Senior apprentice sister, when you were in the Jade Lady Star Court, you always talked about Zhuowen. It should be pardonable for junior sister to have such a guess." Hong Lian rolled her eyes and giggled. A sliver of redness immediately appeared on Qing Lian's pale face when she heard that. She glared at Hong Lian and shook her head. "It's impossible for this person to be Zhuowen. The results of the test in the training square show that Zhuowen is only at the early second wheel of the King realm. It's impossible for him to unleash such a terrifying attack. I only feel that the presence is familiar. Reaching the early stage of the second wheel of the ultimate emperor realm is already very impressive. Look at me, your junior sister. I'm about the same age as that Zhuowen, and I'm only at the initial stage of the first cycle of the ultimate emperor realm. I have to admit that Zhuowen is a freak. He's clearly just a kid from a low-level city, but his cultivation speed is actually so fast." Speaking of Zhuowen, a strange glint flashed in Hong Lian's eyes. "You little girl, it's all your fault for being too lazy. In fact, your talent is much greater than mine. Even senior apprentice sister Luo Xing once praised you. If you had been diligent in your cultivation, your strength would have surpassed mine by now." Qing Lian shook her head. All right, after this Vitality Tower battle, I plan to cultivate seriously. Senior apprentice sister, let's go. Let's hurry to the training mountain. I'm looking forward to seeing what's inside the training mountain." Hong Lian curled her lips and immediately grabbed Qing Lian's jade-like hand and rushed into the depths of the dark forest. Qing Lian didn't refuse and allowed Hong Lian to pull her along. However, before leaving, she took one last look at the blood-red lotus in the distant sky and muttered in her heart, "Zhuowen, if this person is really you, then it's good. Perhaps you really might be able to enter the third level of the tower." The blood-red lotus blossomed with an extremely mournful beauty. When it bloomed to the extreme, the entire blood-red lotus blossomed like a night-blooming epiphyllum. The blood-red petals on the edge withered one by one, leaving behind a terrifying ruin of several hundred feet. Whoosh! At the edge of the ruin, Zhuowen knelt on one knee on the ground, panting. His forehead was full of cold sweat and his whole body was trembling and twitching. The backlash of the blood-red lotus is still so terrifying. Fortunately, I have the terrifying recovery ability of the Hell King's heart. Otherwise, I would have been seriously injured by the backlash instead of just being exhausted. After resting for a while, Zhuo Wen made his way to the center of the ruins with great difficulty. There was a huge crater that was dozens of feet deep. The Golden Giant and Liu Che should be in that crater. In Zhuo Wen's opinion, with the terrifying destructive power of the Blood Lotus, it should be able to destroy the Golden Giant. Coming to the edge of the pit, Zhuo Wen saw the Golden Giant in the pit. At this time, the Golden Giant was supporting itself with both hands. Its body was almost broken. Because the Golden Giant was not made of flesh and blood, there was no blood flowing out. It was just that many parts of its body were damaged, making it look quite miserable. Creak. Suddenly, the Golden Giant's body moved slightly, causing Zhuo Wen's eyelids to twitch. He cursed in his heart. Even the blood-red lotus was used. Could it be that he still couldn't deal with the Golden Giant? Rumble. The Golden Giant only moved slightly before it fell to the side. Its huge body began to turn into dazzling golden light spots that floated in the air. They drifted away with the wind and turned into nothingness. Cough cough. Zhuo Wen, I didn't expect you to hide such a move. I, Liu Che, have really underestimated you. A weak voice came from the pit. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed. Only then did he realize that the Golden Giant was actually Liu Che. When the blood-red lotus exploded, Liu Che must have controlled the Golden Giant to protect him. However, the blood-red lotus was too powerful. Even with the Golden Giant's protection, Liu Che still suffered serious injuries. At this moment, Liu Che was in a sorry state within the deep pit. His clothes were tattered and his hair was disheveled. Numerous hideous wounds covered Liu Che's body, causing him to appear as though he was a bloody man. Liu Che stood up with great difficulty and looked at Zhuo Wen in horror. He never expected that Zhuo Wen would be able to use such a terrifying move. When he thought of the blood-red lotus, Liu Che felt a chill run down his spine. He could imagine that if it weren't for the Golden Giant, he would have died a long time ago. Just how many trump cards does Zhuo Wen have? First, it had a body that was as strong as a peak two-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Then, it had a terrifying Earth-rank spirit treasure. Now, it was this blood-red lotus that was even more terrifying. Even the Golden Giant was annihilated by this blood-red lotus. The more Liu Che thought about it, the more shocked he became. At this time, Zhuo Wen was like a layer of fog that he couldn't see through. No. Zhuo Wen is too terrifying. I have to kill him. Otherwise, there will be no end of trouble. After recovering from his shock, the killing intent in Liu Che's heart grew even stronger. Zhuo Wen was only a second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Liu Che had used the Origin Source Talisman of the everlasting Immortal Emperor Realm, but he still hadn't been able to kill Zhuo Wen. Instead, he had been forced into such a sorry state. If Zhuo Wen's cultivation had advanced a little more, wouldn't that mean that even the everlasting Immortal Emperor might not have been able to kill him? When he thought of this, the killing intent in Liu Che's heart boiled. He reached into his clothes with his right hand and took out a golden talisman. He thought to himself, Zhuo Wen definitely won't expect me to have an origin talisman. I just need to secretly activate this talisman and I'll be able to kill Zhuo Wen without anyone noticing. The power of the Blood Lotus just now was too terrifying. Liu Che didn't believe that Zhuo Wen didn't have to pay a price for using it. Looking at Zhuo Wen's pale face, the price of using the Blood Lotus was definitely not small. At this moment, Zhuo Wen, who was at the edge of the deep pit, didn't notice Liu Che's abnormal actions at all. Just as Liu Che had guessed, Zhuo Wen didn't think that Liu Che would have a second origin talisman. After all, the power of an origin talisman was a little too terrifying. It was already extremely lucky to have one. Having two was just too abnormal. What Zhuo Wen never expected was that the everlasting old man had given Liu Che 3. If he had known, he definitely wouldn't have let his guard down. Liu Che's injuries are even more serious than mine. It's even difficult for him to move. He shouldn't be a threat anymore. Looking at the blooded Liu Che in the pit, Zhuo Wen let out a sigh of relief. He didn't directly jump into the pit. It wasn't that Zhuo Wen didn't want to, but that he was really exhausted right now. He didn't have any extra energy to jump into the pit. Let's recover some yuan qi first before going down to deal with Liu Che. His eyes flashing, Zhuowen finally decided to heal his injuries first. His injuries were also quite serious. If he didn't heal them in time, there would be repercussions in the future. Kid, don't let your guard down. That Liu Che seems to be touching something in his chest. Suddenly, Xiao Hei's alert voice sounded in his head. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He immediately looked at Liu Che in the pit. He saw that Liu Che, who was covered in wounds, had a sinister smile on his face. He stared fiercely at him and said, Zhuowen, do you think you've won? Hehe, I don't think so. Before I set out to kill you, the everlasting old man didn't give me 1 origin talisman, but 3. Haha. With a loud laugh, Liu Che took out a golden talisman from his bosom with great difficulty. The golden light was so dazzling and eye-catching at this moment. Zhuowen, you're dead. You're dead. After using the blood lotus, your injuries aren't any lighter than mine. Otherwise, you would have already come down to kill me. Why haven't you come yet? Raising his right hand high, Liu Che roared in delight. He knew he had won. Chapter 449. The spoils of war. How is this possible? This fellow actually has a destiny talisman. Zhuowen's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he cried out in disbelief. One must know that the might of a single destiny talisman had already caused him to be reduced to such a sorry state. If Liu Che were to use a second destiny talisman, then Zhuowen would really have to give up his life here. No. I must stop Liu Che. Otherwise, even if I have 2 lives, they won't be enough. At this moment, Zhuowen's heart was filled with anxiety. Liu Che's actions had already exceeded his expectations. Sigh. Kid, this is what you get for showing off. Now you're out of luck. Don't worry, Liu Che's injuries are even more serious than yours. Leave it to me. Just as Zhuowen was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, Xiao Hei's voice rang out. Soon after, a black light drilled out from between Zhuowen's brows and transformed into a Xiao Hei dog. Xiao Hei. Looking at the Xiao Hei dog in front of him, Zhuowen looked as if he had seen a life-saving straw. After Xiao Hei appeared, it waved its little paw and an ink-black energy shot out from its paw like an arrow leaving a bow. Poochie. Liu Che, who was originally holding the life talisman in his hand and laughing complacently, also did not expect this unforeseen event. When he saw the black light rushing towards him, he instinctively wanted to activate the life talisman in his hand. However, the black light was too fast. Before Liu Che could activate it, the black light directly entered between his eyebrows. A pool of blood shot out from between Liu Che's brows. Soon after, Liu Che's eyes widened as he stared at Xiao Hei above him. Then, he fell backwards, his furious eyes filled with disbelief. He had never imagined that the final outcome would be like this. He clearly had a powerful treasure like the Destiny Talisman on him, but he had ended up in such a state. I can't accept this. With a loud roar, Liu Che collapsed into the crater with his eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace. With a wave of her little claws, Xiao Hei immediately took Liu Che's Chenkuan bag and the life talisman from his hand. She then tossed them to Zhuowen and said, "It's a good thing that Liu Che's injuries are so severe that he doesn't have any strength to resist. Otherwise, with this Dragon Lord's current soul state, killing him would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens." Hee. Xiao Hei, thank you so much this time. Zhuowen said with lingering fear. It had been too dangerous just now. If Liu Che had really activated his destiny talisman, even with Xiao Hei, it would have been difficult to fight against him. Brat. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions in the future. Once a cultivator reaches the ultimate emperor realm, the gap between each cycle is enormous. You're only at the early stage of the second wheel, but you're already comparable to a peak second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator. That's already extremely abnormal. But you should know that the gap between a peak second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator and an early second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator is like heaven and earth. The only reason you were able to break through Liu Che's destiny talisman was because he was careless. If Liu Che had known that you had such a powerful technique as the blood lotus, he probably wouldn't have stayed by the golden giant's side and would have hidden far, far away. The result of that was that you would be completely exhausted after using the Blood Lotus, while Liu Che would be completely unharmed. At this moment, Xiao Hei's expression had become extremely solemn. Her sharp eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen. She knew that if she didn't say it out loud, Zhuowen probably wouldn't have realized just how dangerous the situation had been. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed when he heard this. Xiao Hei was right. If Liu Che hadn't been so careless, he probably would have been the one to die this time. I was too impulsive just now. Zhuowen smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's good that you know. It's best if you don't act so impulsively in the future. With your potential and talent, it's only a matter of time before you catch up to LV Yongsheng. Right now, all you need to do is cultivate properly and work hard to improve yourself. As long as you reach the peak of the second wheel Ultimate Emperor realm, your strength will truly be comparable to an early third wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Even if you face LV Yongsheng, you won't have to fear him in the slightest. Xiao Hei nodded approvingly. Clearly, she was quite satisfied with Zhuowen's current performance. As she spoke, Zhuowen's gaze shifted slightly and landed on the Chenkuan pouch and the shining golden destiny talisman at the side. A trace of passion immediately appeared in his eyes. Fortunately, I didn't lose out this time. Although I narrowly escaped death, I gained quite a lot. Zhuowen said happily as he grabbed the shining golden destiny talisman with a wave of his hand. The destiny talisman was only the size of a palm and was rectangular in shape. Complicated and strange runes were drawn on the surface of the destiny talisman. Upon closer inspection, Zhuowen discovered that the strange runes on the surface of the destiny talisman were very similar to the golden figure that Liu Che had summoned at the beginning. It's indeed not bad. The might of this destiny talisman is probably comparable to the might of the nine-wheel burning sky cauldron at its peak state. Its value is comparable to an Emperor realm armor skill. If it weren't for the fact that this destiny talisman is a consumable item, its value would probably be even higher than an ordinary Emperor realm armor skill. Xiao Hei's gaze was also focused on the destiny talisman as she clicked her tongue in wonder. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this. In terms of might, this destiny talisman was actually on the same level as the Blood Lotus. However, because the destiny talisman was a consumable item, it didn't have any side effects on Zhuowen at all. The backlash from the Blood Lotus was just too terrifying. Even with the current quality of Zhuowen's body, he actually didn't have the slightest ability to fight against such a backlash. Kid. The backlash from the Blood Lotus is just too great. Even if you've cultivated the Jadestone body tempering method to the peak, making your body comparable to a peak two-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, it's still completely useless against the backlash from the Blood Lotus. It's best if you use it sparingly in the future, Xiao Hei suddenly said. Zhuowen couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. The Blood Lotus was extremely powerful. When he first created this move on the Sandstone Isle, he didn't feel anything at all. At the time, his technique was still extremely immature and unpracticed. The Blood Lotus he created was only comparable to the full-powered attack of an early two-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. However, as Zhuowen continued to delve deeper into the principles of the blood-colored lotus, he became increasingly proficient at mixing them together. In the end, the blood-colored lotus formed from the mixture reached its most perfect state. The might of this perfect blood-colored lotus far exceeded Zhuowen's expectations. It could actually threaten a three-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Of course, the backlash from the perfect state of the Blood Lotus was also extremely great. After using it once, Zhuowen directly lost all ability to fight. If the Blood Lotus couldn't completely destroy the enemy, then Zhuowen would definitely be destroyed. This move was already extremely extreme. Why is the difference between the Blood Lotus and the Ice and Fire Lotus so great? The backlash from the Ice and Fire Lotus is almost negligible to me, but the backlash from the Blood Lotus makes me wish I was dead. The difference between the two is really too great. Shaking his head, Zhuowen rather missed the Ice and Fire Lotus of the past. With his current physical quality, the backlash from the Ice and Fire Lotus was just child's play. Hee. Can the Ice and Fire Lotus be compared to the Blood Lotus? The two aren't even on the same level in terms of power. The ice and fire lotus you created back then could only threaten a one-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, but the blood lotus can kill a two-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator and threaten a three-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Xiao He sneered. Zhuowen nodded. He also knew that the two weren't on the same level in terms of power, but he was depressed and wanted to complain a little. Xiao He, do you think that if my physical body was a little stronger, I would be able to completely resist the backlash from the blood lotus? Zhuowen seemed to have thought of something as his eyes lit up. Of course. The backlash from the explosion created by the ice and fire sacred symbol is mainly directed at the physical body. If your physical body is strong enough, you will naturally be able to withstand the backlash from the blood lotus. Actually, if you had the complete ice and fire sacred symbol, then you wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. The sacred symbol would automatically eliminate the backlash from the explosion for you. Xiao He stroked his chin and smiled. The complete ice and fire sacred symbol? I can only go to Naga Divine Academy for this matter. After all, the complete ice and fire sacred symbol is still there. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. Hee. Kid, you might not be risking your life to go to Naga Divine Academy for the ice and fire sacred symbol. I'm afraid it's for Mu Chenxue. Xiao He suddenly said somewhat mischievously. Zhuowen rubbed his nose when he heard this and was slightly embarrassed. However, he couldn't help but recall that figure that was like a celestial maiden that had descended to the mortal world and that charming kiss in the ancient abode. Perhaps this was the first time in so many years that Zhuowen had felt his heartbeat speed up. Shaking his head and wiping away the thoughts in his mind, Zhuowen knew that it was useless to think about it now. He had to use his actions to prove himself. Let's not talk about this anymore. Xiao He, I've already practiced the jade stone body tempering technique to the peak. I don't know how I can improve my physical body next. Zhuowen came back to his senses and timely changed the topic. If you use the proper method, it will be very slow to improve your physical body. However, if you have a high-level body tempering technique, then your physical body will improve very quickly, just like the jade stone body tempering technique you obtained previously. Xiao He pondered and said, high-level body tempering technique? Hearing this, Zhuowen shook his head and there was a touch of bitterness on his face. Body tempering techniques were rarer than armor skills. The jade stone body tempering technique that Zhuowen obtained last time was a heaven-level body tempering technique. Therefore, if Zhuowen wanted to quickly improve his physical body, he would need at least an emperor-level body tempering technique. However, the rarity of an emperor-level body tempering technique was comparable to a superior emperor-level armor skill. It could be said that it was extremely rare. Perhaps even in the house of Marquis Qin, which had a rich heritage, there were not more than 5 emperor-level body tempering techniques. Didn't that Lu Nantian say that there are many treasures in the Training Mountain? Perhaps in the Training Mountain, you may be able to find a suitable emperor-level body tempering technique. Xiao He suddenly said. Chapter 450. Elviatao's guess. After about an hour, Zhuowen finally recovered some of the Yuan Qi in his body. He could finally move freely, but he was still far from fully recovered. At the very least, he could stand up. Kid, let's leave this place first. The commotion caused by your battle earlier was too great. It has already alerted many meta beasts in the dark forest, as well as some ancient warriors nearby, Xiao He suddenly said solemnly after moving around for a while. Looks like we shouldn't stay here for long. With that, Zhuowen quickly put away the destiny talisman on the ground and stuffed Liu Chei's Chenkuan bag into his waist. With a stomp of his foot, countless bolts of lightning spread out and turned into 2 huge lightning wings on his back. He immediately turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared from where he was. About an hour after Zhuowen left, the roars of beasts resounded in the depths of the dark forest. Following that, a violent earthquake rumbled and an exotic beast the size of a small mountain quickly swept out from the forest. The exotic beast's aura was extremely terrifying. Wherever it passed, the surrounding meta beasts would scatter like birds and beasts. In an instant, the entire dark forest was emitting a terrifying aura. Boom! The earthquake stopped and the exotic beast that was the size of a small mountain finally stopped in the small valley that had turned into ruins. Its red eyes swept across the ruins and finally focused on a huge deep pit not far away. It smelled an extremely strong smell of blood. Ow! The mutated beast roared and took a huge step forward. It arrived at the huge pit in an instant. When it saw Liu Che lying in the huge pit with his eyes wide open, its breathing became heavier. It roared excitedly and opened its huge mouth, wanting to swallow Liu Che's body whole. Boom! A transparent barrier immediately enveloped Liu Che's corpse. The exotic beast that was originally pouncing towards Liu Che's corpse crashed into the barrier, causing the ground to shake violently. What surprised everyone was that after the exotic beast the size of a small mountain crashed into the barrier, it actually let out a mournful cry and was directly sent flying. In the end, it landed on the ground a dozen or so meters away, cracking the ground and creating a small crater. Ow! The exotic beast struggled to get up. Its red eyes stared fixedly at an elegant figure floating in the air above the huge pit. It was a young man in white robes. There was always a trace of indifference on his face. A mature green nether beast. You're pretty strong. If an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator encountered you, they might find you extremely troublesome. Unfortunately, you encountered me. If you don't want to die, leave now. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I won't kill you next time. The young man in white robes stood in the air and shook his head. The blue nether beast was a gigantic origin beast that resembled a black panther. It was known for its speed. A young blue nether beast was extremely weak. Perhaps an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would be able to kill it. However, once the blue nether beast matured, its strength would increase by several times. It would be comparable to an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Even a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would choose to retreat if they encountered a green nether beast. They wouldn't fight it because it was a strenuous and unrewarding task. The green nether beast seemed to understand the young man in white's words. It roared in a low voice. Although its intelligence was low, it could still sense that this human cultivator was not to be trifled with. However, it didn't want to let go of a piece of meat that was already in its mouth. After a moment of hesitation, the green nether beast roared angrily. It stomped its huge feet on the ground and pounced towards the young man in white. What a reckless beast. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. The young man in white's eyelids drooped slightly. His arm that was as slender as a woman's reached out into the air. The space several dozen meters in front of him actually began to distort. The green nether beast that was pouncing towards the young man in white completely stopped 3 meters in front of him. It was as if time had stopped. Break. A faint voice rang out. The space several dozen meters around the green nether beast that was stopped in midair shattered. The scene was like a transparent glass shattering. The green nether beast that was in this shattered space didn't even make a sound before it turned into a bloody mist. The green nether beast was a meta beast that was comparable to a Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. However, it couldn't resist the young man in white at all. It was instantly killed. What kind of strength did this require? Whoosh. After the young man in white annihilated the green nether beast, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out behind him. The white-clothed young man furrowed his eyebrows as he turned his head to look. When he saw the graceful and pretty figure behind him, his furrowed eyebrows immediately relaxed. The corners of his mouth even revealed a slight smile as he said, "I really didn't expect younger sister Luo Xing to be nearby. Looks like Yi Dao has been a little rude." The graceful figure was graceful and elegant. From afar, she looked like a fairy wrapped in a sky full of stars. Wherever she passed, the stars were bright and dazzling. Wasn't she the #1 genius of the Jade Lady Star Court, Luo Xing? The young man in white was naturally the #1 genius of the House of Marquis Qin, LV Itao. Young Master LV, what a coincidence. Luo Xing replied in an indifferent manner. Immediately, her pretty eyes turned slightly and her attention was focused on the ruins below. A trace of interest surfaced in her pretty eyes as she faintly asked, "Does young Master Lu know what happened here?" Hearing this, LV Itao shook his head and said, "I was a few hundred kilometers away from this place. Because I saw that enormous blood-red lotus, I hurried over here. However, when I arrived here, the battle here had already ended. I also rushed here because of the blooming blood lotus. The ruins within a few hundred meters should be caused by the unknown blood lotus. I'm quite curious about the guy who can release such a terrifying move. Luo Xing nodded. LV Atao nodded and said doubtfully, the blood lotus is indeed terrifying. If I'm not wrong, the one who released the blood lotus must be an ultimate emperor stage expert. However, I know all the ultimate emperor stage experts in the Vitality Tower battle, but none of them have a similar move. Oh! Luo Xing's beautiful face revealed a trace of surprise when she heard this. She chuckled and said, maybe it's a genius who is hiding his strength. After all, if a cultivator wants to, he can hide part of his strength during the heavenly monolith test. That's possible. Moreover, this hidden expert is most likely not a cultivator from our province capital. It seems that Lord Father was right. This year's Essence Tower battle is indeed the most prosperous. There are quite a few dark horses in it. LV Atao nodded in agreement. Moreover, there's a corpse in the deep pit below. It should be the one who lost the battle just now. Let's go down and see who this person is. As long as we recognize this person, we might be able to deduce the identity of the cultivator who killed him. As he spoke, LV Atao's figure flashed and he instantly arrived beside the corpse in the deep pit. Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flashed. She stepped lightly on the void and slowly landed behind LV Atao. At this moment, LV Atao's expression was solemn. He flipped over the corpse and carefully examined its appearance. After a moment of silence, he said, if I remember correctly, this person should be the #1 genius of Tyrant Chu City, Liu Che. He's an early-stage Ultimate Emperor stage expert. Tyrant Chu City's Liu Che? He's only an early-stage Ultimate Emperor stage expert? This kind of strength doesn't seem to be enough to cause such a huge commotion, right? Luo Xing frowned slightly and said doubtfully, that's true. However, I heard that the city lord of Tyrant Chu City is obsessed with talismans. The talismans he creates are all very powerful, especially his natal talisman. Its power is comparable to an Ultimate Emperor stage expert. This Liu Che is considered the #1 genius of Tyrant Chu City. I'm afraid that the old man would give him a natal talisman to save his life. With a natal talisman, Liu Che's strength should be comparable to an Ultimate Emperor stage expert. However, from the looks of it, even with a natal talisman, Liu Che still lost in the end. LV Atao smiled faintly. So it's a natal talisman. The old man's natal talisman is indeed quite powerful. If Liu Che had a natal talisman, he would indeed have the qualifications to fight against an Ultimate Emperor stage expert. However, with the power of a natal talisman, Liu Che should have been able to easily escape from an Ultimate Emperor stage expert. Why did he die so miserably instead? Luo Xing's heart grew more and more doubtful. She looked at Liu Che, who had died with his eyes open. LV Atao's eyes narrowed when he heard this. He said in surprise, little sister Luo Xing is right. With a natal talisman, Liu Che should have been able to escape from an Ultimate Emperor stage expert. However, he died. I'm afraid that the person who killed him is extremely powerful. Perhaps it's at least at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor stage. Luo Xing's eyes flickered when she heard LV Atao's words. She was also surprised. A peak 3-wheel emperor was enough to rank in the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. Qin Batian and Shu Tianliang were only at the peak of the 3-wheel emperor realm. But now, there was actually a nameless person who actually possessed such strength. How could Luo Xing not be surprised? It looks like there are quite a few low-key experts in the Origin Qi Tower this time. I've never heard of them before. LV Atao frowned slightly and shook his head. Their guesses were naturally far from the truth. Zhuowen's strength was at most comparable to a peak Emperor stage expert. If a true Ultimate Emperor stage expert had come, he would definitely be no match for them. Killing Liu Che was completely due to Zhuowen's luck. If Liu Che had stood far away, he wouldn't have been affected by the power of the Blood Lotus. Unfortunately, Liu Che had been too confident. He thought that he had defeated Zhuowen for sure. Thus, standing on the Golden Giant's shoulder, he had become a live target for Zhuowen. It looks like this Origin Chi Tower battle will be much more exciting than the previous ones. I'm looking forward to it. Young Master LV, I still have to rush to the training mountain. I'll be leaving first. Luo Xing nodded slightly. She didn't wait for LV Atao to speak. Her elegant figure turned into starlight and disappeared from the valley. Chapter 451. Tattered cloth. Dark clouds descended, like a black dragon wreaking havoc in the sky, covering the stars in the sky. The night in the dark forest was especially desolate. The deep darkness was accompanied by the roars of beasts. In this lonely forest, a tragic and terrifying atmosphere converged. In the depths of the forest, in a remote cliff, there was an extremely inconspicuous small cave. Wisps of dim yellow light seeped out from the cracks of the cave entrance, making it seem misty and mysterious. A faintly discernible figure, under the illumination of the dim yellow light, appeared to be a flickering shadow. This cave is extremely well hidden. Ordinary martial artists or meta beasts would not be able to discover it. It just so happens that I can stay in the cave for 3 days and recover from my injuries first. Inside the cave, a slender young man with black hair and black eyes sat on a knee-high rock. The young man carried a blood-red spear on his back and his clothes were somewhat tattered. At this moment, he was throwing dry wood into the bonfire beside him. Opposite the bonfire floated a palm-sized Xiao Hei dog. At this moment, this Xiao Hei dog rubbed its chin with its paws and laughed. This cave is really not bad. If the cave entrance is hidden, no one will be able to discover it. Kid, you can take a look at Liu Chei's Chenkuan bag. With Chu Bia Cheng's background, the things in Liu Chei's Chenkuan bag should be quite valuable. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and took out a blood-stained Chenkuan bag from his waist. His Niwen palace moved and his mental strength entered the Chenkuan bag. After a while, Zhuowen's face suddenly revealed a look of ecstasy. He stuttered a little and said, Xiao Hei, there seems to be a natal talisman in Liu Chei's Chenkuan bag. Xiao Hei, who was originally leisurely and contented, almost fell to the ground after hearing this. His little black eyes were filled with disbelief as he said, What? There's another natal talisman? Could it be that the Wuji old man actually gave Liu Chei 3 natal talismans? It should be. As he said this, Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and directly took out a golden talisman with strange symbols on it. It was the natal talisman. It really is a natal talisman. This everlasting old man was truly generous. He actually gave Liu Chei 3 life talismans at once. However, if that limitless old man were to know that 2 of his life talismans had fallen into your hands, I wonder if that old man would be so angry that he would vomit blood. After recovering from his shock, Xiao Hei suddenly laughed coldly. His face was filled with a gloating expression. Zhuowen also smiled. He was also looking forward to it. If the limitless old man knew that the natal talisman that he had painstakingly refined had fallen into the hands of Zhuowen, who he wanted to kill, what kind of expression would he show? Zhuowen solemnly put away this life source talisman. He knew that these 2 life source talismans would become his sharpest trump card. At the very least, by relying on these 2 life source talismans, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him to reach the 3rd floor of the Essence Chi Tower. Zhuowen once again probed Zhuowen's Chenkuan bag. He discovered that apart from the most precious natal talismans, the other items were basically not of much use to him. For example, some high-grade spirit treasures and heaven-tier armor skills were of little use to him. Therefore, Zhuowen only gave them a cursory glance before stuffing them all into his Chenkuan bag. Although these items were of little use to him, after the battle for the Origin Chi Tower was over, he could bring them back to Zhuo family. After all, the development of Zhuo family also required a considerable amount of resources. These things were no different from priceless treasures to the Zhuo family. Hey! This is... Suddenly, Zhuowen's gaze converged on a remote corner of the Chenkuan bag. There was a somewhat tattered piece of cloth lying quietly in that corner. For some reason, Zhuowen actually felt a taboo aura from this tattered piece of cloth. A piece of cloth can actually give me a taboo aura. This piece of cloth isn't simple. Frowning slightly, Zhuowen faintly felt that this tattered piece of cloth wasn't simple. Thinking of this, Zhuowen waved his right hand and immediately caught the piece of cloth in his palm. The cloth was extremely small, only the size of Zhuowen's palm. At first glance, it simply looked like an ordinary item. However, Zhuowen's mental power was extremely powerful and sharp. He could feel the strange fluctuations within the cloth. These fluctuations were very special. If it weren't for Zhuowen's sharp senses, he would definitely have thought that this piece of cloth was an ordinary item and wouldn't have paid much attention to it. Xiaohei. This piece of cloth is a little strange. Can you recognize what it is? After racking his brains to no avail, Zhuowen finally asked Xiaohei for help. At this moment, Xiaohei's brows were slightly furrowed. A pair of small, black eyes stared straight at the cloth in Zhuowen's palm. A rare trace of seriousness appeared on his face. When Zhuowen took out the cloth, Xiaohei had already focused his attention on it. Kid. The fluctuation on this cloth is extremely powerful. Furthermore, it's a mental fluctuation. The strength of this fluctuation is probably far beyond the level of a 4th or even 5th tier Arcana Master. If this Dragon Lord's guess is correct, the previous owner of this cloth was very likely a 6th tier Arcana Master, Xiaohei said with a serious expression. Hiss. A 6th tier Arcana Master? Hearing this, Zhuowen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After all, the status of Arcana Masters in the Qingxian Empire was extremely high. It had already exceeded Zhuowen's imagination. A mere 4th tier Arcana Master was someone that even Lu Nantian, Marquis Mu Qin, didn't dare to offend too much. If it was a 5th tier Arcana Master, Lu Nantian would even have to be respectful. Even the Azure Emperor of the Qingxian Empire wouldn't dare to be presumptuous towards a 5th tier Arcana Master. However, there wasn't a single 6th tier Arcana Master in the entire Qingxian Empire. Perhaps only a few superpowers in the Eastern lands had 6th tier Arcana Masters, such as the Blue Dragon Hall and the Excellent Gods Academy, and so on. Very soon, Zhuowen's gaze became extremely heated. He stared at the cloth in his palm and said, "It's actually something that belonged to a 6th tier Arcana Master. That's a legendary existence. Something left behind by someone like that definitely isn't simple. However, this cloth looks so tattered. Even if it's something that belonged to a 6th tier Arcana Master, it probably isn't some kind of treasure, right?" Xiaohei said somewhat doubtfully as she looked at the ordinary cloth in front of her. However, Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Arcana Masters have many different methods. You can't tell what's special about this cloth, but I can." Zhuowen cultivated the Myriad Evolution scripture of the Myriad Evolution sect. His mental strength was much stronger than that of ordinary 3rd tier Arcana Masters. The current Zhuowen's mental strength was probably no weaker than that of a 4th tier Arcana Master. However, the quality of his mental strength was much weaker than that of a 4th tier Arcana Master. Even so, Zhuowen's mental strength far exceeded that of a 3rd tier Arcana Master at the consummation of the 3rd tier. That makes sense. Try using your mental strength to sense this cloth. Perhaps you might be able to tell what's different about it. Xiaohei nodded and said seriously. All right. As he spoke, Zhuowen's Niwen Palace moved. His mental energy, which was as vast as the sea, surged out and entered the cloth in his palm. There's resistance. When Zhuowen's mental strength came into contact with the cloth, he immediately sensed a strange ripple on the surface of the cloth. It seemed to have become an iron wall, directly blocking out Zhuowen's mental strength. Break through. His eyes narrowed as the Niwen Palace in his sea of consciousness buzzed gently. An even greater amount of mental strength immediately surged out, turning into a sharp blade. It immediately pierced through the obstruction on the surface of the cloth and successfully entered it. After breaking through the obstruction of the ripples around the cloth, Zhuowen felt like the stars in front of him had shifted, as if he had traveled through space. The scene before him had turned into a spiral-like black hole, and his mind was directly sucked in by this black hole. When Zhuowen opened his eyes, he saw that the scene before him was actually a vast starry sky. Below the starry sky was an endless void of darkness. Zhuowen hovered in the void as he stared at the starry sky in confusion. Boom! Suddenly, the star closest to Zhuowen suddenly exploded. The blazing light almost caused Zhuowen to cover his eyes involuntarily. When Zhuowen opened his eyes again, He was surprised to discover a figure with fluttering clothes slowly walking over from the exploding star. It was an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. His beard was spotlessly white, and he actually covered a distance of thousands of meters with just a casual walk. A sage-like aura emanated from the old man. The old man held a horsetail whisk in his hand. His eyes were as sharp as a hawk's as he suddenly stared at Zhuowen. A scorching light flickered in the depths of his eyes as he laughed aloud. "Young friend, I really never thought that you would actually be able to obtain the cloth I left behind. Even more so, I never thought that you would actually be an arcana master as well." As he spoke, the old man once again carefully scrutinized Zhuowen, repeatedly nodding his head as he said, "Little friend, your fortune is not shallow. You actually possess the 10,000 expansion sects, 10,000 expansion scripture. There's actually the presence of Saint Talismans as well. It's the Icy Fire Saint Talisman and the Wind Lightning Saint Talisman. It's a pity that they're both incomplete." Zhuowen's heart churned like a storm when he heard that. Just who was the old man before him? He had even discovered his greatest secrets, the Wind Lightning Saint Talisman and the Icy Fire Saint Talisman. Moreover, he had even pointed out that the two Saint Talismans were incomplete. Who is this old man? How does he know my secrets? Xiaohei, do you know who this old man is? Zhuowen's face was filled with shock as he hurriedly sent a message to Xiaohei. However, what shocked Zhuowen was that no matter how he called out to Xiaohei, he did not receive any response. There's no need to try calling out to the spirit in your sea of consciousness. The place you're currently in is the spiritual world that I created. There's no way for you to make any contact with the outside world. The old man smiled. There was an unfathomable expression on his face. It can't be. This old man even knows about Xiaohei's existence. After calling out to Xiaohei to no avail, Zhuowen knew that the old man was probably telling the truth. The place he was currently in should be the spiritual world that the old man had created. Chapter 452. The mysterious old man. Young friend, there is no need to be so nervous. The fact that you are able to enter the spiritual world within the cloth means that your spiritual force talent has already reached the required level. Otherwise, even if you obtained the cloth, you would not be able to enter the spiritual world. The white-haired old man smiled as he changed the topic. My spiritual force talent has reached the required level. Zhuowen stared solemnly at the old man in front of him. The more he looked at him, the more he felt that the old man before him was not simple. The old man's every move gave off a strange fluctuation. Zhuowen knew that if the old man wanted to, he could annihilate him at any time. That's right, this old man has set up a restriction on this cloth. Only when one's spiritual force talent has reached the required level can one enter the spiritual world through the cloth. And you, young fellow, are not simple at all. You have actually cultivated such a powerful secret skill like the myriad evolution scripture. In the future, young fellow, your future is limitless. Naturally, you have the qualifications to obtain the inheritance within the cloth. The white-haired old man said. The cloth contains a spiritual force secret skill that this old man has created. Just now, this old man has inspected your body and found that you actually have 4 types of earth fire. It seems that your opportunity is not small. Then this old man's spiritual force secret skill is even more suitable for you. The white-haired old man's eyes flashed as he said, "Oh, a spiritual force secret skill that is suitable for me? What kind of spiritual force secret skill is it?" Hearing this, Zhuowen said energetically, "Once you leave the spiritual world, the spiritual force secret skill will naturally appear within the cloth. Because you have cultivated the myriad evolution scripture, this old man is also very interested in the spiritual world. Thus, this old man pulled you into the spiritual world to meet you." At this point, the white-haired old man suddenly rubbed his hands together in a wretched manner. He shamelessly approached Zhuowen and said, "Young fellow, what is it? Can you lend this old man the myriad evolution scripture?" Seeing the old man who originally had a sage-like demeanor actually reveal a wretched expression, Zhuowen immediately felt a trace of strangeness in his heart. A trace of hesitation appeared on his face. Zhuowen had obtained the myriad derivation scripture by chance. Zhuo Wen was hesitant to hand it over to this white-haired old man whom he had met for the first time. Nonetheless, Zhuo Wen knew that the elder in front of him was already being very polite to him. After all, someone who could construct such a massive spiritual world was definitely not an ordinary person. A powerhouse like that could kill him with a wave of his hand. The white-haired old man also saw the hesitant expression on Zhuo Wen's face. He slapped his forehead and said, "Looks like this old man is a little too direct. Kid, this old man will not borrow your 10,000 yang true scripture for free. I will exchange it with you on equal terms. How about this? I can see that your spiritual power has already reached the pinnacle of the 3rd rank. You're only one step away from becoming a 4th rank arcana master." As he spoke, the white-haired old man wretchedly rubbed his hands and shamelessly approached Zhuo Wen. "If you can lend this old man the 10,000 yang true scripture, this old man will help you raise your spiritual power to the 4th rank arcana master. What do you think?" Hearing this, the hesitation on Zhuo Wen's face instantly vanished. His eyes flickered with a bright light as he hurriedly nodded and said, "If you can help me break through to become a 4th rank arcana master, then I can lend you the myriad derivation scripture. However, can you really help me break through to the 4th rank arcana master?" Ever since his spiritual power reached the pinnacle of the 3rd rank, Zhuo Wen felt that the spiritual power in his Niwen Palace was progressing at an extremely slow pace. He had heard that an arcana master who reached the 4th rank would undergo an earth-shattering change, a true metamorphosis. In the past, arcana masters were thought to be extremely weak in battle. If a fighter of the same rank were to fight an arcana master, the fighter would completely crush the arcana master. However, once an arcana master reached the 4th rank, an earth-shattering change would occur. This was because once an arcana master reached the 4th rank, their spiritual power would become extremely condensed and resilient. It was precisely because a 4th rank arcana master's spiritual power was simply too powerful that a 4th rank arcana master could rely on their spiritual power to attack and defend. Their spiritual power could completely resist an earth-tier spirit treasure. Because Zhuo Wen cultivated the 10,000 yang true scripture, his Niwen Palace had a total of 81 strands of spiritual power. If Zhuo Wen's spiritual power really did reach the 4th rank, his spiritual power alone would probably be on par with an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. If Zhuo Wen's spiritual power broke through to the 4th rank, Zhuo Wen would no longer need to fear LV Yongsheng. Seeing that Zhuo Wen was doubting him, the white-haired old man immediately glared at him and snorted, "I'm just helping you forcefully break through to the 4th rank. What's so difficult about that? It's as easy as lifting a finger for me." With that, an extremely terrifying presence erupted from the white-haired old man's body. The presence was as vast as the ocean, as vast as the starry sky. Before this presence, Zhuo Wen was like a small boat that could capsize at any time in a storm. He was insignificant and insignificant. What a powerful presence! How can it be so powerful? A sliver of shock finally appeared on Zhuo Wen's face. The white-haired old man's presence was so vast that he could not resist it at all. Zhuo Wen could sense that even the Qin Marquis Lu Nanshan's presence was not even 1,000th of the white-haired old man's. This old man was just too terrifying. Who is this old man? Why is his presence so terrifying? At this moment, Zhuo Wen's body actually began to show signs of collapsing under the presence. Strands of red blood flowed from his exposed body, making him appear miserable and savage. The white-haired old man also saw Zhuo Wen's strange appearance and hurriedly withdrew his aura. He glanced at Zhuo Wen apologetically and said, "Now you know how powerful this old man is. Come here. I'll help you with the enlightenment right now and help you break through to the 4th rank." With that, the white-haired old man waved his right hand and a powerful force immediately pulled Zhuo Wen in front of him. He extended a skinny arm and gently tapped Zhuo Wen's forehead. Zhuo Wen only felt a cool sensation between his brows. Soon after, dense spiritual power flowed from the old man's hand into Zhuo Wen's Niwen Palace. Rumble. The Niwen Palace was like a sudden clap of thunder. The spiritual power within it transformed into a whirlpool. Like rivers flowing into the sea, it sucked in all the spiritual power that the white-haired old man poured into the Niwen Palace without any resistance. As the spiritual power continued to enter, the whirlpool of spiritual power in the Niwen Palace rapidly expanded. Finally, it enveloped the entire Niwen palace. When the whirlpool expanded to its maximum size, it exploded with a bang and the whirlpool of spiritual power turned into a rain of light. Countless rain of light gathered in the Niwen palace. Finally, the capacity of the spiritual power in the Niwen palace became much smaller than before. However, Zhuowen could feel that this spiritual power was much more resilient than before. If the spiritual power in the Niwen palace was described as a weak thread in the past, then the current spiritual power in the Niwen palace was like a steel wire that was as strong as steel. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. A ray of light suddenly burst out from his eyes. His face was filled with excitement. At the same time, countless spiritual storms rose around Zhuowen and wreaked havoc in the air. The space around him was directly torn to shreds by these spiritual storms. Is this the power of a grade 4 spiritual power? Feeling the terrifying destructive spiritual storms in the air, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with joy. The destructive power of a grade 4 spiritual power had somewhat exceeded his expectations. Kid, since this old man has already enlightened you and helped you break through, then you should let this old man borrow the myriad evolution scripture. The white-haired old man rubbed his hands and approached Zhuowen once again. Thank you, senior. This time, you have really helped me a lot. It is natural for me to let you borrow the myriad evolution scripture. If it were not for the fact that I have not completely mastered the myriad evolution scripture, I would have directly given it to you. Zhuowen gratefully clasped his hands. With a wave of his right hand, he took out a piece of metal from his Chenkuan bag and handed it to the white-haired old man. Senior, this piece of metal contains the myriad evolution scripture. The white-haired old man hurriedly took the piece of metal and said with a smile, Kid, you are quite straightforward. This old man likes your character. However, you can rest assured that this old man is only looking at it. After looking at it, I will naturally return it to you. I will not take advantage of you. Hearing this, Zhuowen lightly sighed in his heart. What he was most afraid of was that this terrifying old man in front of him would directly take the myriad evolution scripture and not return it. With this old man's terrifying strength, Zhuowen simply did not have the ability to take back the myriad evolution scripture from the white-haired old man. After saying this, the white-haired old man no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. Instead, he began to concentrate on looking at the myriad evolution scripture in the piece of metal. With the passage of time, the old man's brows would occasionally relax and frown. Sometimes, he would curse loudly. Sometimes, he would slap the table and shout. His behavior was similar to that of a madman. After about an hour, the white-haired old man took a deep breath. A trace of light flashed in his eyes. He laughed heartily and said, "So that's how it is. No wonder the myriad evolution scripture has the effect of dividing spiritual power. It turns out that this is the principle. Why didn't this old man expect it? It's really wonderful. Haha." The white-haired old man looked up to the sky and laughed crazily. With a stomp of his foot, he actually disappeared from where he was. In the next moment, he was thousands of miles away, almost turning into a Xiaohei dot. Whoosh! The piece of metal turned into a black light and gently fell into Zhuowen's palm. At the same time, the white-haired old man's laughter was like rolling thunder, reverberating through the entire void. Little guy, this time, I really have to thank you. This old man has searched for the myriad evolution scripture for thousands of years, but I have not found any clues. I did not expect that the cloth I casually left behind would actually bring you to this old man. Moreover, you have the myriad evolution scripture with you. It seems that the heavens are really helping me. Haha. Little guy, your talent is very good. Perhaps in the near future, we will meet again. Now, this old man will take his leave first. The white-haired old man's wild laughter rang in his ears. Zhuowen's eyes were also filled with surprise. Just looking for the myriad evolution scripture had taken thousands of years. What kind of old monster was this? After all, a cultivator who could live for thousands of years would at least be in the Emperor realm. This old man is at least an Imperial Power Realm expert, isn't he? How terrifying. I am actually lucky enough to meet a legendary Emperor Realm cultivator. Moreover, It seems that this old man's spiritual power cultivation is also extremely terrifying. He is at least a 6th grade arcana master. What an old monster. Chapter 453. Fire Fusion Technique Kid. Hurry up and wake up. In the cave, Xiao Hei stared solemnly at Zhuowen, who had suddenly become sluggish, in front of the campfire. After Zhuowen had tried to examine the cloth in his hand, he had instantly become like this. What's going on with this cloth? After this kid's mental energy came into contact with the cloth, he became so dispirited. Just as Xiao Hei was at a loss of what to do, an extremely powerful aura suddenly surged out of Zhuowen's body. The surging mental energy was like a vast ocean that spread throughout the entire cave. What a powerful mental energy! Hey! How can this mental energy be so powerful? It's almost comparable to a grade 4 arcana master. Seeing the sudden surge of mental energy from Zhuowen's body, Xiao Hei was stunned at first, but soon after, a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He said, "This kid can't have broken through, right? He broke through just like that after being in a daze for a while. This is really..." Xiao Hei did not know what to say, and could only curse to express the pain in his heart. However, he also knew that Zhuowen's sudden breakthrough had something to do with the cloth. The powerful aura came and went quickly. When the aura in Zhuowen's body had completely disappeared, Zhuowen's eyelids moved slightly, and he slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with surprise. "Kid, what happened? Why did your mental energy suddenly break through to grade 4? Xiao Hei's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Zhuowen, his face full of confusion. Looking at the confused Xiao Hei in front of him, Zhuowen did not hide anything and told him everything that had happened in the spiritual world. Xiao Hei had been with him for many years, and he was not an outsider to him. There was no need to hide such things from Xiao Hei. After listening to Zhuowen's story, Xiao Hei's face was filled with astonishment. He repeatedly praised Zhuowen's luck for being able to meet an Imperial Realm powerhouse and obtain such a great opportunity. That old man once said that the cloth contained a secret spiritual technique that he had created. I wonder what this secret spiritual technique is. Zhuowen seemed to have thought of something, and his gaze immediately converged on the cloth in his palm. He saw that the originally empty cloth was actually filled with dense ink black characters. Fire Fusion Technique. At the top of the dense black ink, there were 3 large words: Fire Fusion Technique. The strokes were like dragons and snakes, and the tip of each stroke was 3 feet long. After seeing the name of this secret spiritual technique, Zhuowen faintly felt that this fire fusion technique should be of great help to him. When he was in the spiritual world, the white-haired old man had said that this secret spiritual technique was extremely suitable for Zhuowen. After about an hour, Zhuowen had basically finished reading the words on the cloth. When his gaze swept across the last word, Zhuowen let out a sigh of relief, and his face revealed a trace of ecstasy. This fire fusion technique was too suitable for him, as if it was a secret spiritual technique that was tailor-made for him. The fire fusion technique, as the name suggested, was a secret spiritual technique that used one's mental energy to fuse different flames. Moreover, it was a secret spiritual technique that specialized in fusing the extremely powerful earth fire. According to the introduction, the highest level of the fire fusion technique was that as long as 9 different earth fires were fused, one would be able to create a brand new flame. This flame's power was comparable to the heavenly fire, and it was called 9-colored refining flame. This fire fusion technique can actually artificially create heavenly fire? Isn't this a little too unbelievable? After reading all the contents of the fire fusion technique, Zhuowen couldn't help but gasp. Zhuowen naturally knew about heavenly fire. It was the ultimate flame whose power surpassed that of earth fire. It was said that every heavenly fire on the heavenly armor continent possessed extremely high intelligence. Some had even cultivated to become spirits, and could transform into human form to cultivate. It was extremely abnormal. Heavenly fire was a flame bestowed by the heavens, the king of all flames. Of course, in the boundless heavenly armor continent, heavenly fire was extremely rare. In the tens of thousands of years of heavenly armor continent's history, the number of heavenly fire that had appeared had never exceeded 2 digits. This was enough to prove how rare heavenly fire was. Kid, This fire fusion technique is amazing. When cultivated to the highest level, it can actually fuse 9 different earth fires and create a heavenly fire called 9-colored refining flame. Xiao He also browsed through the contents of the cloth and said with wide eyes, "Haha. The 9-wheel burning sky cauldron originally needed to gather 9 different earth fire origins to successfully activate its full power. However, the fire fusion technique can fuse 9 different earth fires. Both of these required me to gather earth fires. It seems like the will of the heavens wants me to gather earth fires," Zhuowen said in a good mood. Hee. The power of earth fire isn't something that an ordinary person can withstand. Moreover, without a corresponding container to contain the earth fire origin, no matter how strong one is, one may not be able to successfully tame earth fire. Kid, you're extremely lucky. Not only do you have a treasure like the ice fire sacred charm that can suppress earth fire, you also have a container like the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron that can contain earth fire. It can be said that collecting earth fire is a lot easier for you. The only thing you lack is clues about earth fire. Xiao He rolled her eyes. That's true. However, I already have 4 types of earth flames in my body. I wonder, after cultivating this fire-fusing art and fusing all 4 types of earth flames, what level of power would it reach? Zhuowen grinned. If you fuse all 4 earth fires together, its power shouldn't be as strong as the blood lotus. However, the difference shouldn't be too great. It shouldn't be a problem to kill a second wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, Xiao He quietly analyzed. As if thinking of something, Zhuowen suddenly had an idea and said, "If I fuse the 4 earth fires together to create a new flame, and then use this new flame to fuse with the extreme frost, how powerful will the ice and fire energy created be?" Xiao He couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. He nodded and said, "That's a good idea. If the 4 types of earth flames were to create a new flame and fuse it with the extreme cold ice, the ice and fire energy created would definitely far surpass the blood-colored lotus. However, are you sure you can endure the backlash? The backlash from the blood lotus is already enough for me to withstand. There's no need to even talk about the even more powerful ice and fire energy created by the fusion of the new flame." Zhuowen bitterly shook his head. "That's why. Right now, your most important task is to obtain a powerful Emperor tier body tempering technique. Only a Emperor tier body tempering technique can quickly increase the quality of your current body," Xiao He said. "If it's a Emperor tier body tempering technique, then I can only hope that the training mountain has such a body tempering technique." Zhuowen nodded and said, "There's no need to rush. Right now, if you want to cross the dark forest to reach the training mountain, you'll need at least a month. That Lunantian once said that the training mountain will begin in 2 months. You don't need to rush to the training mountain. You can practice the fire fusion technique as you hurry. The power of the fire fusion technique is pretty good." Hearing Xiao He's words, Zhuowen nodded in agreement. Now that Zhuowen's mental strength had reached the initial 4th level, his strength had more than doubled. Perhaps even an initial stage Emperor stage expert would be unable to do anything to Zhuowen. I'll try to comprehend the fire fusion technique first. It's best if I can completely comprehend it before entering the training mountain. This way, I'll have one more trump card. After saying that, Zhuowen didn't say anything else. Instead, he silently sat cross-legged in front of the bonfire and began to comprehend the fire fusion technique within the cloth. Thousands of miles away from the dark forest, the majestic training mountain quietly stood between the heavens and the earth. At the peak of the mountain, which reached into the clouds, was an extremely large platform. At this moment, close to 1,000 people were standing on the platform, silently observing a stone tablet in the center of the platform. This stone tablet was hundreds of feet tall, and its appearance was exactly the same as the worldly tablet in the training plaza. Clearly, there was also a worldly tablet at the peak of the training mountain. Moreover, the names on this worldly tablet were neatly arranged, and it was much simpler than the one in the training plaza. In front of the 1,000 people stood 5 transcendent figures. Naturally, they were the Lunantian, the master of the meteorite, and the other 2 giants. The dark forest is indeed full of danger. It's only been 3 days, and more than 50 people have already been eliminated. Gu Tian stared intently at the heaven and earth tablet in an inconspicuous spot in the group. At this moment, there were already over 50 names on the heaven and earth tablet that had dimmed. This meant that these people had already been eliminated and died. Brother Gu, there's no need to be too worried. I can see that the 3 contestants from Vine Armor City aren't simple. They probably won't die in the dark forest. Qiu Chou, who was standing beside Gu Tian, smiled faintly. I'm not too worried about Zhuowen. He's extremely strong. I'm worried about Jiu Xin and Hu Wuiying. They're both slightly weaker, only half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. In the dark forest, which is full of danger, this kind of strength isn't enough. Gu Tian shook his head. You're all that confident that Zhuowen won't be in danger? However, this old man thinks that Zhuowen is dead for sure. Hee hee. A cold laugh suddenly came from the side, causing Gu Tian, Qiu Chou, and Ouyang Yuntu to frown. They stared at the sneering old man. Old man Wuji, you're so sure that Zhuowen is dead for sure? You're too sure. Qiu Chou retorted. Hee hee. Do you think that little bastard will still be alive after offending our tyrant Chu City? Old man Wuji laughed sinisterly. So you're saying that you sent Liu Che to kill Zhuowen? Hee hee. Although Liu Che is strong, his ranking on the worldly tablet is lower than Zhuowen's. I'm afraid that he'll be killed after catching up to Zhuowen. At that time, your tyrant Chu City will lose a monstrous genius. Qiu Chou sneered. Hee hee. Liu Che won't fail because this old man gave Liu Che a natal talisman. No matter how heaven-defying that Zhuowen is, he won't be able to resist the power of a natal talisman. Old man Wuji laughed proudly. What? Natal talisman? Old man Wuji, you're truly despicable. Qiu Chou, Gu Tian, and Ouyang Yuntu's expressions changed greatly. They naturally knew that old man Wuji was proficient in talismans. Chapter 454. Everyone was taken aback. Old man Wuji sure is generous. He's even given his natal talisman to Liu Che. Old man Wuji's natal talisman is extremely powerful. If one hasn't reached the ultimate emperor stage, they'll basically die a horrible death under the natal talisman. Zhuowen's talent is indeed great, but he's only at the ultimate emperor stage. He's no match for Liu Che, who has a natal talisman. The confrontation between old man Wuji and Qiu Chou attracted the attention of a few cultivators in the surroundings. In particular, when they heard about the natal talisman, they all became visibly moved. Old man Wuji revealed a trace of complacency when he sensed the fearful gazes from the surroundings. The natal talisman was the work of his blood, sweat, and tears. It was extremely famous in Muqin County. He didn't believe that Liu Che, who had a natal talisman, couldn't kill Zhuowen. Qiu Chou, do you still think Zhuowen will make it through the dark forest unscathed? Haha. But don't worry. Once we reach the training mountain, Ouyang Hanxian and the others from Broken Rock City will be eliminated very quickly. The everlasting elder glanced at Qiu Chou provocatively. Their tyrant Chu City and Broken Rock City were originally like fire and water, and the everlasting elder and Qiu Chou had already fought many times. Seeing Qiu Chou suffer, the everlasting elder was naturally pleased. Qiu Chou's eyes darkened when he heard that. He had experienced the might of old man Wuji's natal talisman before. It was indeed very powerful. Although he was rather confident in Zhuowen, he still didn't believe that Zhuowen could withstand the might of the natal talisman with his strength. Old man Wuji, don't be so smug. The dark forest is shrouded in inky black mist all year round. Visibility is extremely low. It's not that easy to track someone down. Qiu Chou snorted coldly. Hee hee. I've already planned to get rid of that little bastard. Do you think I wouldn't think of that? To tell you the truth, I've placed a tracking presence in the jade slip of the Startling Cloud Limitless manual. As long as that little bastard doesn't throw the jade slip away, Liu Che and the others will definitely be able to catch up, old man Wuji said proudly. What? Qiu Chou, Gu Tian, and Ouyang Yuntu finally revealed looks of shock. Originally, they had thought that Zhuowen could rely on the inky black fog to escape from Liu Che and the others due to the extremely low visibility in the dark forest. But now, The everlasting old man had actually made full preparations. "Limitless old devil, you're really ruthless," Cho Cho said coldly. He no longer paid any attention to the old man. Instead, he stared worriedly at Zhuowen's name on the monolith. Fortunately, Zhuowen's name was still bright and had not dimmed. This meant that Zhuowen had not been eliminated yet. "Zhuowen, don't die so easily," Cho Cho muttered. Seeing that Cho Cho did not reply, the Wuji old man felt a little bored. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the heaven and earth tablet. He was looking forward to seeing Zhuowen being eliminated. Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden light flashed across the heaven and earth tablet. Then, like a falling meteor, the light gradually dimmed. "Another person has been eliminated." The golden light quickly dimmed. Everyone's eyes flickered as they stared fixedly at the name that was about to dim. Every time this happened, they knew that someone had been eliminated. Very soon, they found an unremarkable name in the human category. The person who had been eliminated was only a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Everyone only glanced at him briefly before ignoring him. After all, he was only a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. There was no need for them to pay too much attention to him. However, the everlasting old man in the crowd frowned slightly. This was because the half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator who had fallen was from Tyrant Chu City. Moreover, he was one of the 5 people who had pursued Zhuowen with Liu Che. It looks like that Zhuowen has some strength. Liu Che and the other 4 surrounded him, but he still managed to kill one of them. The everlasting old man was slightly displeased. Although Tyrant Chu City had a deep foundation, it still took a lot of effort to raise a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Originally, he thought that Liu Che should be able to kill Zhuowen without suffering any injuries since he possessed 3 destiny talismans and was besieged by 5 people. However, now that he had lost one of his people, it naturally made old man Wuji unhappy. I'm afraid that Liu Che was reluctant to use his natal talismans, which is why he allowed Zhuowen to kill one of his people. I'll have to give Liu Che a good scolding after he passes the trial, the everlasting old man thought to himself. Whoosh! Another blazing golden light lit up, and yet another person's name in the human stele dimmed. However, it still didn't cause too much of a commotion. The human stele was filled with half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators, so they weren't worth paying too much attention to. After all, half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators were the lowest level of existence in the stele of heaven and earth. Crack! However, the everlasting old man clenched his right hand as he stared at the name that had dimmed again. This person was also a genius from Tyrant Chu City. He was also the other half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator in Liu Che's group of 5. Liu Che, that brat. If he doesn't give me an explanation after the trial, I won't forgive him, the everlasting old man muttered to himself coldly as his expression darkened. The everlasting old man could still accept the loss of one half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. However, he had lost 2 at once. No matter how rich the everlasting old man was, he still felt some pain in his heart. After all, there were no more than 10 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators in Tyrant Chu City. However, it's about time that Zhuowen was dealt with by Liu Che. He died a worthy death for having 2 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators from Tyrant Chu City die with him. As he spoke, the everlasting old man stared coldly at Zhuowen's name in the sky category. The 2 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators were the weakest among Liu Che's group of 5, so it was possible that they'd be killed by Zhuowen before he died. However, the remaining Liu Che, Zhu Yi, and Zhu Fan were no pushovers. They were more than capable of killing Zhuowen. Cho Cho and the others, who were standing not too far away from the everlasting old man, also noticed that the 2 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivators who'd been eliminated seemed to be from Tyrant Chu City. It looks like Zhuowen and Tyrant Chu City's teams have started fighting. Cho Cho frowned as he spoke worriedly. The everlasting old man is too despicable. He didn't have any good intentions when he took out the art of startling cloud. Ouyang Yuntu shook his head helplessly. Then what should we do? That Liu Che has a natal talisman on him. Even if Shuo Wenyu has already killed 2 geniuses from the Tyrant Chu City, If Liu Che were to make a move, how could Zhuo Wenyu possibly be his match? Jiu Tian's face was filled with worry. Zhuowen was the most monstrous genius in the history of Rattan Armor City, and a key figure in the rise of Rattan Armor City. If Zhuowen died, then Rattan Armor City would have no hope of rising again. It might even decline forever. Lord Jiu, don't worry too much. Zhuowen isn't dead yet, is he? Perhaps the heavens will help the worthy and he'll be able to escape from Liu Che's pursuit. Qiu Chou's face revealed a trace of bitterness. Even he couldn't believe this. He's still lying to himself. Qiu Chou, that old bastard, still hasn't given up. Let's see what kind of expression he'll have when the results come out. The everlasting old man chuckled to himself. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, 2 rays of golden light flashed from the worldly monolith. They were like 2 blazing suns on the monolith, extremely dazzling and eye-catching. However, this resplendent scene was short-lived. Look. The golden light is coming from the Earth stage area. This means that the eliminated geniuses are at the Ultimate Emperor realm. Moreover, 2 of them were eliminated at the same time. It looks like the 2 of them were from the same team. They must have encountered some big trouble in the Dark Forest, so they died together. This is the first time in 3 days that I've seen Ultimate Emperor realm geniuses being eliminated. I originally thought that the geniuses in the Earth stage area would be able to make it to the Mountain of Trials. I didn't expect them to be eliminated in just 3 days. This speed is a bit fast. When the golden light rose from the Earth stage area, it immediately caused an uproar on the platform. Many people even shook their heads emotionally. Creak. The everlasting old man clenched his fists tightly. Terrifying veins bulged on the back of his hand. His cold little eyes widened as he stared blankly at the 2 names that were gradually dimming in the Earth stage area. He muttered in disbelief, Zhu Yi, Zhu Fan, they've been eliminated as well? How is this possible? Zhu Yi and Zhu Fan were geniuses second only to Liu Che in Tyrant Chu City. Although they were only at the first wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm, the 2 of them had cultivated the yin-yang true water technique. If the 2 of them worked together, their strength would be comparable to an early stage second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm. In the eyes of the Wuji Elder, it was impossible for Zhu Yi and Zhu Fan to be eliminated. However, they had now appeared before him. Qiu Chou, Jiu Tian, and Ouyang Yuntu also noticed the dimming names of Zhu Yi and Zhu Fan in the Earth stage area. They naturally recognized these 2 geniuses who were quite famous in Tyrant Chu City. Strange expressions appeared on their faces. Zhuowen's strength seemed to have exceeded their expectations. Liu Che had clearly led 5 people to chase after Zhuowen, but now, 4 of them had been killed by Zhuowen. One of them was a peak Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, while the other was a mid-Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. However, the commotion on the platform hadn't ended yet. A terrifying, blazing golden light suddenly erupted from the disk of heaven and earth. The dazzling golden light practically enveloped the entire platform. Many people couldn't help but cover their eyes with their hands. After their eyes adjusted to the light, they slowly opened their eyes. Soon after, they were shocked to discover that this light was coming from the heaven stage area. What? Could it be that an Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator at the second wheel has been eliminated? In an instant, an uproar rose and fell on the platform. The geniuses in the heaven stage area could be considered the seeded contestants of the Trial Mountain. Now, there were already seeded contestants who had fallen before they even entered the mountain. This was simply too exaggerated. Chapter 455. 2 colored flames. The dazzling golden light slowly faded away. Liu Che's name gradually dimmed at the 50-second mark of the heaven stage, and finally disappeared from the surface of the stone tablet. In an instant, the entire platform fell silent. Many people looked at each other in dismay. They had no idea what had happened. It had only been 3 days, but 2 of the seeded Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators had already fallen. Wasn't this a little too fast? Isn't Liu Che the #1 genius of Tyrant Chu City? Although he's only an initial 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, he has the life talisman given to him by the old man. Who would have thought that he would die in the dark forest in just 3 days? I heard that after Liu Che left the training grounds, he led the 4 strongest cultivators of Tyrant Chu City to chase after Zhuowen. Could it be that Liu Che and the others were all killed by Zhuowen? Are you kidding? Liu Che has a natal talisman, so he'll be able to survive even if he encounters an early-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Zhuowen isn't much stronger than Liu Che. Do you think Zhuowen has the strength to kill Liu Che? Yes. I don't believe that Zhuowen has the strength to do so either. It's said that the Dark Forest is extremely dangerous. If you're not careful, even an ultimate 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator can die. This Liu Che might have been unlucky. Perhaps he provoked a origin beast in the Dark Forest and lost his life. An uproar immediately broke out around the platform. Many cultivators stared blankly at the dim name as they discussed amongst themselves. Many people even looked in the direction of the everlasting old man. Creak. The old man clenched his fists and his veins bulged. When he saw Liu Che's name dim with his own eyes, his facial muscles twitched violently. His expression became incomparably sinister. How is this possible? Liu Che is actually dead. The old man took a few steps back. He felt the ground beneath his feet shake, and he almost lost his balance. He stared blankly at the tablet as he muttered to himself. He couldn't believe this. He couldn't believe it. Tyrant Chu's losses in this battle for the Vitality Tower are huge. Liu Che, Ju Yi, and Ju Fan were all geniuses that Tyrant Chu had painstakingly nurtured. To think that they would all die in an instant. Many people shook their heads and sighed when they saw the everlasting old man's soulless appearance. Some of them even revealed mocking expressions. The everlasting old man was arrogant and despotic, and he had offended many people. Now that these people saw the everlasting old man in such a state, they naturally took pleasure in his misfortune. On the other hand, Qiu Chou, Jiu Yu Tian, and Ouyang Yuntu were pleasantly surprised. They hadn't expected Liu Che to be eliminated instead of Zhuowen. Liu Che is dead. He couldn't have been killed by Zhuowen, right? Jiu Yu Tian said excitedly. Who knew that Qiu Chou shook his head and said, Lord Jiu, you don't know. The everlasting old man's natal talisman is extremely powerful. It's enough to withstand the full force attack of a 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. After all, Zhuowen is only a 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. It's basically impossible for him to kill Liu Che, who has a natal talisman. However, this Liu Che's personality is the same as the everlasting old man's. He's also arrogant and unruly. After entering the Dark Forest, he probably relied on his natal talisman to act in a high-profile manner, thus attracting the attention of many powerful origin beasts in the Dark Forest. Qiu Chou didn't elaborate further. However, Jiu Yu Tian and Ouyang Yuntu had already guessed what Qiu Chou meant. Liu Che should have died in the Dark Forest. This was the most logical guess. Compared to the uproar of the crowd on the platform, LV Nantian, the master of Meteorite Garden, and the other 4 people at the front of the platform appeared much calmer. However, the 5 of them still revealed a trace of astonishment on their faces. Generally speaking, as long as a 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator was careful, they would have a high chance of passing through the Dark Forest. However, it had only been 3 days, and one of these seeded cultivators had actually fallen. This naturally surprised the 5 of them, but they didn't take it to heart. After all, Liu Che's ranking in the Heaven Rank region was extremely low. It wasn't enough for them to pay too much attention to him. The Dark Forest was shrouded in endless black fog. It was eerily silent in the vast expanse of land. Occasionally, the roars of beasts and the shadows that flitted through the forest added a mysterious veil to this forest that was filled with danger. Within a quiet cave, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes as he murmured, I never thought that after 10 days of cultivation, my cultivation would actually make a slight breakthrough. I've already reached the peak of the early second wheel. All I need is an opportunity, and I'll be able to reach the mid-second wheel. It's usually the easiest to break through between life and death. Your battle with Liu Che was practically a narrow escape. This kind of dangerous battle can only be beneficial to you. Xiao He flew to Zhuowen's shoulder and said. Glancing at Zhuowen, Xiao He suddenly said, "Kid, I saw that you've been comprehending the fire fusion art for the past 10 days. I wonder how you've been doing?" A trace of a smile appeared on Zhuowen's face when he heard this. The fire fusion art is truly miraculous. Although I haven't fully comprehended it, I believe that fusing 2 types of earth fire shouldn't be a problem. 2 types of earth fire? To be able to fuse 2 types of earth fire in 10 days, that's not bad. Why don't you show it to this Lord Dragon? Xiao He asked expectantly. Millimeter. Zhuowen didn't waste any time. With a light pinch of his left hand, a portion of the earth fire stored in the sacred fire rune surged out. They were the blue 9 heavens thunder inferno flame and the green 3000 green lotus flame. As soon as the 2 types of earth fire appeared, the temperature in the cave instantly shot up. Under such high temperature, the nearby rock walls actually showed signs of melting. Zhuowen's eyes turned serious. The Niwen palace between his eyebrows began to spin rapidly. Waves of mental energy gushed out and turned into a gentle force that enveloped the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame and the 3000 green lotus flame. Zhuowen then began to circulate the fire fusion art and slowly fused the 2 types of earth fire together. Sizzle. Ear-piercing sounds slowly rang out, like the soft sound of firecrackers exploding. When the 2 types of earth fire came into contact with each other, green and blue sparks burst out, looking brilliant and gorgeous. At this moment, a trace of cold sweat appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. Although he had been comprehending the fire fusion art for the past 10 days, this was the first time he had actually fused the flames. Crackle. When the 2 types of earth fire were more than half fused, they suddenly began to tremble violently. Waves of terrifying energy constantly escaped from the 2 types of earth fire. Danger. With this thought in mind, Zhuowen's hands moved extremely quickly. He quickly threw the 2 types of earth fire that had failed to fuse out of the cave. Boom. The 2 types of earth fire that had failed to fuse flew out dozens of feet before suddenly exploding violently. Countless waves of qi scattered in all directions. It actually blasted open a huge crater that was dozens of feet wide in the open space outside the cave. Looking at the crater outside the cave, Zhuowen's face palpitated. It seemed that fusing earth fire wasn't as simple as the ice fire rune. Hee. Kid, aren't you being too confident? Fusing 2 types of earth fire won't be a problem. Is this a sign that there's no problem? Xiao He pointed at the crater outside the cave and laughed without restraint. This caused Zhuowen's expression to become extremely ugly. He snorted coldly. Fusing the earth fire is only a matter of time. This is only my first attempt, so it's understandable that I failed. However, the power of this failed 2-colored flame is still quite impressive. Millimeter. Its power is indeed not bad. If this Dragon Lord's guess is correct, the power of this failed 2-colored flame is comparable to that of a mid-2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner. If you succeed, the power of this 2-colored flame will be comparable to that of a late 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner. Millimeter. Zhuowen nodded in agreement with Xiao He's words. The power of the 2-colored flame had indeed surprised Zhuowen. If a 2-colored flame could reach such a level, then wouldn't a 3-colored flame be comparable to a peak 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner? And a 4-colored flame would be even more powerful. It would probably be able to threaten a 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner. I hope I can master the 2-colored flame as soon as possible and create enough of it. At that time, the Ice Flame Saint Talisman's power will reach an even higher level. With that, Zhuowen took a step forward and exited the cave. He arrived at the empty space outside and began to try fusing the 2-colored flame again and again. Boom. 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 For a moment, the secluded space was filled with continuous explosions. Fortunately, Zhuowen had set up a silencing restriction around the cave beforehand, so no matter how loud he was inside, no one outside could hear him. Time flowed by, and 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. A black-haired, black-eyed young man stood in the empty space with a serious expression on his face. He clenched his hands in the air, and 2 types of powerful earth fire immediately appeared in his palms. The left was a green flame, and the right was a blue flame. following which, a wave of mental energy that was as vast as the sea gushed out and gently wrapped around the two earth flames. Soon after, the young man slowly placed his hands together. When the two earth flames came into contact with each other, dazzling sparks flew in all directions. At the same time, muffled explosions began to resound. It sounded as if the two earth flames in his hands would explode at any moment. I'll definitely succeed this time. The young man snorted coldly. His hands formed a seal with great familiarity, and he did not hesitate to squeeze the two types of earth fire together. Following that, an unbelievable scene occurred. The two types of earth fire with terrifying temperatures instantly fused together, forming a strange flame that alternated between blue and green. An aura that was much more powerful than regular earth fire surged out from the two-colored flame. The surrounding space seemed to distort. The two-colored flame has successfully fused. Zhuowen's face immediately lit up with wild joy when he saw the blue and green flames slowly burning in his palms. He could not help but laugh at the sky. Swoosh. Chapter 456. Someone was there. The night was like the king of darkness, ruling over the world and enveloping the entire sky in darkness. Beast roars rang out one after another, appearing terrifying and eerie. In the depths of the dark forest, on a small hill in the forest, a bonfire was surging. A somewhat lonely figure was sitting cross-legged in front of the bonfire. His expression was leisurely, and he did not appear to be flustered or nervous because of the sudden rise and fall of the beast roars in the night. This figure was tall and slender, shoulder-length black hair casually scattered behind his back. He carried a blood-colored spear on his back. It was Zhuowen, who had left the cave and was heading towards the training mountain. Ever since he had mastered the first level of the fire fusion art and successfully merged the two flames, Zhuowen had rushed towards the training mountain without stopping. With Xiao Hei's divine sense, Zhuowen's speed was rather fast and he was very close to the training mountain. It has already been a month since we entered the dark forest. This dark forest is indeed filled with danger. If one is not careful, even a second-wheel ultimate emperor practitioner may die inside, Zhuowen said to Xiao Hei in his mind in a bored manner as he tossed the dry wood in his hand into the bonfire. Kid, you have this Dragon Lord's divine sense to help you detect danger, yet you're still worried about this. If it wasn't for this Dragon Lord, you wouldn't have rushed here so quickly. This place is only 1,000 miles away from the training mountain. If there aren't too many obstacles ahead, you'll only need 5 days to enter the training mountain, Xiao Hei said. Nodding his head, Zhuowen did not say anything else. Instead, he stared at the bonfire in front of him, his right hand tossing the dry wood in boredom. Crack. Suddenly, Zhuowen's right hand tightened, instantly crushing the dry wood in his hand. His sharp eyes narrowed as he muttered, Xiao Hei, are you sure that someone is heading towards us? Yes. Be careful, there are indeed 2 people heading towards us. They must have seen the bonfire here, Xiao Hei said solemnly. Slowly raising his head, Zhuowen also sensed something. His gaze was fixed on the deep forest in front of him, where he could hear some somewhat hurried footsteps. The bonfire surged. A moment later, 2 graceful figures finally walked out from the darkness. One of the 2 silhouettes was dressed in a cyan veil. Her fair skin was accentuated by the veil, making her look even more alluring and beautiful. Under the light of the bonfire, her pretty face had a hint of delicateness. Behind the cyan-clothed woman was a red-clothed girl. The red-clothed girl's age was about the same as Zhuowen's, but she still looked a little immature. When Zhuowen's gaze converged on the 2 beautiful figures, his face was startled. The ferocious expression on his face faded away like the tide and was replaced by a surprised smile. Zhuowen. The green-clothed lady could not help but exclaim when she saw the slender figure slowly standing up from the bonfire in front of her. Miss Qing Lian. What a coincidence that we would actually meet in the dark forest. With a faint smile, Zhuowen arrived in front of Qing Lian and said, Why are you in such a sorry state? Could it be that you have met with some trouble? When he approached Qing Lian, Zhuowen frowned slightly. Only now did he notice that Qing Lian's pretty face carried a wisp of exhaustion. Moreover, the gauze on her body was damaged in many places, causing her skin that was white like snow to be exposed. Qing Lian also noticed Zhuowen's gaze. Her beautiful eyes tilted slightly, and her expression became a little unnatural. She forced a smile and said, "There is no trouble." Senior sister Qing Lian. Behind her, Hong Lian saw that Qing Lian did not want to speak. She stamped her foot anxiously and subconsciously wanted to speak. However, she did not dare to continue after being stared at by Qing Lian. Zhuowen also noticed the strangeness of the two women in front of him. He frowned slightly. Judging from Qing Lian's sorry state, they should have met with some big trouble. However, why didn't they say anything? This made Zhuowen feel a little strange. "Zhuowen, this is my junior sister Hong Lian. She is considered an extremely talented genius in our Jade Lady Star Court. We have urgent matters to attend to now, so we won't disturb you. We will take our leave first." Qing Lian gritted her teeth and forced a smile at Zhuowen. She directly pulled Hong Lian and was about to pass by Zhuowen. Just as Qing Lian was about to pass by Zhuowen, Zhuowen suddenly stretched out his right hand and grabbed Qing Lian's jade-like hand. He frowned slightly and asked, "Miss Qing Lian, are you really okay? Looking at you now, you don't look like you are okay." If it was someone else, Zhuowen naturally would not meddle in their business. However, Qing Lian had no choice. Since the incident in the ancient cave mansion, Qing Lian had helped Zhuowen several times. Zhuowen had always remembered Qing Lian's favor in his heart. He was not an ungrateful person. Feeling Zhuowen's warm hand, Qing Lian's delicate body trembled slightly. A trace of mist suddenly appeared in her watery eyes. However, it was quickly replaced by a trace of determination. She turned around and stared at Zhuowen. Qing Lian said coldly, "Zhuowen, I really have urgent matters to attend to. I hope you will stop obstructing me and let us go." Hearing this, Zhuowen was startled. He revealed a wry smile and said, "I'm sorry, Miss Qing Lian. I was too rude just now. If there is nothing else, we will leave first. After all, the Mountain of Trials is about to open. We can't stay in the dark forest for too long." Qing Lian nodded slightly and did not dare to look at Zhuowen again. She gently pulled her jade-like hand out of Zhuowen's grasp and directly left the bonfire with Hong Lian, who wanted to say something but was hesitating. Staring at Qing Lian and Hong Lian leaving in a hurry, Zhuowen frowned. He always felt that Qing Lian was hiding something from him and did not want to say it. However, since Qing Lian said that she was fine, Zhuowen would not look for trouble. "Kid. That girl called Qing Lian is severely injured. I don't know why, but she's purposefully hiding her injuries from you." Suddenly, Xiao Hei's voice rang out in his head. "Severely injured?" Hearing this, Zhuowen's pupils shrunk slightly. Just as he was about to ask for the details, Zhuowen frowned slightly. This was because 4 ear-piercing sounds of breaking through the air sounded from the direction that Qing Lian and Xiao Yang had come from. Clearly, there were 4 people hurrying over. "Kid, be careful. The 4 of them are very powerful. They seem to all be second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators." Xiao Hei's voice immediately became serious. "All 4 of them are second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators? Are they geniuses from the super forces of the provincial capital?" Zhuowen could not help but be surprised as well. He knew that those who had appeared together were basically all geniuses from the same organization. Only the 5 great organizations in the provincial capital would be so bold as to have more than 4 second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm geniuses in Muqin province. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, 4 figures with surging auras appeared a few dozen meters away from the bonfire. 4 gazes converged on Zhuowen, who stood in front of the bonfire. The 4 figures were all young men around the same age. All of their auras surged violently. What surprised Zhuowen was that it was just as Xiao Hei had said. The 4 of them were actually second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. In particular, the leader of the group was a man in green robes with a sinister gaze. His aura was the strongest. According to Xiao Hei's probing, the man with a gloomy expression was actually a late-stage second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. As for the remaining 3 young men, one of them was a mid-stage second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, while the other two were early-stage second-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. It's not him. Let's continue chasing. The green-clothed man glanced indifferently at Zhuo Wen. Then, he suddenly stomped his foot on the ground and shot forward like an arrow that had left the bow. The other three nodded when they heard the man's words. They ignored Zhuowen, who stood in front of the bonfire, and followed behind the man in green robes. The four of them are all from the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. Why are they in such a hurry as well? Zhuowen muttered with a frown as he casually stirred the bonfire with his hand. The four of them had all been tested on the stele of heaven and earth before. They were all renowned figures in the Heaven Realm region, so Zhuowen naturally had a deep impression of them. The leader of the group was said to be a genius second only to Xu Tianliang in the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. At the same time, he was Xu Tianliang's younger brother, Xu Liang. He was a late-stage second-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator and was an extremely difficult opponent to deal with. Kid. The direction the four of them are heading in seems to be where Qing Lian and Xiao He left. It's probably not a coincidence that they've come here. Perhaps they're pursuing those two women. Xiao He's voice rang out leisurely. Crack. Zhuowen suddenly crushed the withered branch in his hand. Zhuowen's gaze became gloomy as he said, Xiao He, are you sure that the four of them are pursuing Qing Lian and Xiao He? Of course I'm sure. This dragon lord felt that the aura of Qing Lian's injury was extremely similar to the aura of Xu Liang. I'm afraid that Qing Lian was injured by Xu Liang, Xiao He said. The Jade Lady Astral Court and the Marquis of Baichuan's estate are both among the 5 great powers of the prefecture. Why is Xu Liang pursuing Qing Lian? If the Jade Lady Astral Court finds out about this, I'm afraid they won't let it go, right? Zhuowen said with a frown. I don't know about that. However, looking at Xu Liang's anxious look, I'm afraid that Qing Lian and Xiao He are extremely important to him. Kid, do you want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Xiao He's voice suddenly became vulgar as he spoke. Since it's Miss Qing Lian's matter, then I, Zhuowen, naturally have to take care of it. I'd like to see the strength of the second genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. With a cruel smile on his face, Zhuowen lightly stepped on the ground, causing the fallen leaves to scatter in all directions. Then, like a ghost, he disappeared from where he stood. A few 100 kilometers away from the bonfire was a dense forest. Countless withered branches flickered about in the surroundings like ghosts, and it seemed strange and terrifying. Especially the whistling sounds emitted by the violent winds that blew over and tore the branches apart, it added an atmosphere of terror to this silent night. 2 beautiful figures were walking unsteadily in the dense forest. Suddenly, Qing Lian, who was walking in front, bent her waist and knelt on one knee. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of cherry-red blood. Senior sister Qing Lian, are you all right? Hong Lian hurried to Qing Lian's side and helped her up. She was so anxious that she almost cried. I didn't expect Xu Liang to practice the forbidden technique, Dark Yin Finger. The power of this Dark Yin Finger is really extraordinary. My meridians are almost filled with the power of the Dark Yin Finger. I can't mobilize the power to heal my internal injuries, Qing Lian said with a painful expression as she placed her hand on her chest. Chapter 457. Underworld Finger. You silly girl, can't you see? Even if I hand you over, Xu Liang and the others won't let me live. After all, if the Jade Lady Star Court finds out that Xu Liang is trying to deal with us, then a war between the 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion and the Jade Lady Star Court is bound to happen. However, Xu Liang will not let this happen. Qing Lian's eyes were cold as she said, the dark forest is full of danger. Even a 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator can die in the forest if they are careless. Therefore, as long as Xu Liang kills us without anyone noticing, Jade Lady Star Court will not suspect them. Hearing this, Red Lotus's face turned pale. She sobbed, then what should we do? Xu Liang and the others are too strong. We're no match for them. With their speed, they'll catch up with us soon. Red Lotus was completely out of her wits. It was the first time in 18 years that she felt so close to death. At the same time, she began to regret her slacking off. If she had been more diligent, she could have reached the two-wheel ultimate emperor realm. Then she wouldn't have been a burden to Qing Lian. Red Lotus, you go first. Xu Liang and the others are after you. I won't let you fall into their hands. As long as you reach the Mountain of Trials, you'll be able to meet Senior Sister Luo Xing there. At that time, you can tell Senior Sister Luo Xing about this matter and ask her to avenge me. Qing Lian pushed Hong Lian lightly, barely supporting herself as she spoke. No. Senior Sister, I won't leave you behind. If we're leaving, we'll leave together. Why don't we go back and find Zhuowen? Maybe he can help us. Red Lotus said anxiously with tears on her face. Don't. Qing Lian hurriedly pulled Red Lotus back. Her face was pale as she said, don't find Zhuowen. Don't drag him into this. Even if Zhuowen comes, it won't help. He's only an initial two-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator. He can't help us at all. But. Red Lotus pursed her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 4 figures with powerful auras rushed towards Qing Lian from hundreds of meters away. Miss Clear Lotus, Miss Red Lotus, why are you two running? This shoe won't eat you, so why are you running? A gloomy voice came from the forest behind them. It was Xu Liang's voice. Qing Lian and Hong Lian's delicate bodies trembled. Their beautiful eyes stared intently at the 4 figures behind them. Their pretty faces revealed a trace of despair. Bang! Suddenly, Qing Lian stretched out her hand and pressed it against Hong Lian's back. A gentle force immediately carried Hong Lian's delicate body forward. Red Lotus. Remember, you must reach the Mountain of Trials and tell Senior Sister Luo Xing everything that happened here. Only then will I be able to rest in peace. Qing Lian's cold voice rang out. Red Lotus could only watch as Qing Lian's proud and aloof figure slowly disappeared before her eyes. Qing Lian's pretty face was filled with determination as she watched the Red Lotus swiftly vanish before her eyes. She patted her cosmos sack and instantly took out a jade token with stars carved on its surface. After a moment of hesitation, Qing Lian directly crushed the jade pendant. Immediately, countless starlights spread out. With Qing Lian as the center, the area of several hundred feet was completely enveloped by the dazzling starlight. The starlight token? Miss Qing Lian, I didn't expect you to have this on you. It seems that Luo Xing gave it to you. Xu Liang and the other 3 were caught off guard and were directly enveloped by the dazzling starlight. Xu Liang's face was gloomy as he stared at Qing Lian and said coldly. The Starlight Token was a secret treasure unique to the Jade Lady Astral Court. It was said that its power could spread over several hundred feet and form a cage of starlight energy. It could even trap a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator for a while. Xu Liang, you're too bold. Aren't you afraid that the Jade Lady Astral Court will declare war on the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion by attacking us in public? Qing Lian's pretty face was gloomy as she waved her hands. Hee hee. Then you can only blame your bad luck for bringing along a junior sister with an extreme yin body. If Hong Lian didn't have an extreme yin body, I naturally wouldn't have provoked you. Unfortunately, Hong Lian just happened to be. Xu Liang shook his head and laughed sinisterly. Qing Lian, you also know what an extreme yin body means, right? Hee hee. As long as I absorb the primordial yin of an extreme yin place, not only will my dark yin finger reach the perfection realm, but my cultivation will also advance by leaps and bounds because I cultivate the primordial yin body. It's even possible for me to directly break through to the third wheel ultimate emperor realm. Qing Lian's pretty face was ugly. She trembled with anger and said, Xu Liang, you shameless person. Junior sister Hong Lian will never give you her primordial yin. You won't? Then I'll take it by force. Anyway, you junior sisters are going to die this time. Hee hee, attack the surrounding starlight with all your might. Qing Lian is seriously injured and can't display the full power of the starlight token. As he spoke, Xu Liang stomped his foot and a powerful aura suddenly surged out. He began to attack the surrounding starlight with all his might. The other 3 received Xu Liang's order and naturally used all their strength to attack the starlight that approached them. Boom! Boom! Ear-piercing explosions rang out one after another as countless strength chis flew in all directions within the starlight. Under the effect of these powerful strength chis, the surrounding starlight was destroyed one after another. The originally dense starlight became much thinner in the blink of an eye. Dark shadow finger, break. Xu Liang's face revealed an impatient expression. He stomped his foot forward and stretched out his right index finger. At this moment, the surging power of heaven and earth suddenly gathered in the void behind him. Immediately, a huge black finger that was dozens of feet long drilled out of the void and violently blasted the surrounding starlight. The surging aura overflowed from the huge finger like a surging torrent, forming a black hurricane that wiped out the remaining starlight. As soon as the starlight was broken, the black finger was like an ancient giant beast and heavily blasted the barrier outside the starlight. Boom! The entire barrier shook violently. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. The sky fell and the earth cracked. With a cracking sound, the barrier that was on the verge of collapse finally cracked under the bombardment of the huge finger. The crack gradually spread and collapsed inch by inch. Puff! A mouthful of blood was spat out from her cherry lips, and Qing Lian was like a butterfly with broken wings as she quickly flew backwards. Her beautiful face became bloodless and extremely pale. She finally crashed into the withered tree behind her and let out a muffled groan. Humph! You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'll leave Qing Lian to you. But don't leave her alive. I'll go after Red Lotus first. Xu Liang took a step forward. His face revealed a trace of indifference and he directly disappeared on the spot. The remaining 3 people understood tacitly. Their eyes converged on Qing Lian, who was lying limp on the ground in front of them. Their faces revealed obscene expressions as they slowly walked toward Qing Lian. Qing Lian was an extremely famous genius among the younger generation of the Jade Lady Star Court. Moreover, her figure and appearance were also considered one of the best in the county. Many young talents in the county had pursued Qing Lian, but they were all rejected by her. I really did not expect that Qing Lian, who is known for being as pure as ice and as pure as jade, would actually have such a weak side. Looks like the 3 of us need to properly dote on her. The grey-clothed youth, who was the strongest, laughed heartily. Shameless. Qing Lian clenched her teeth. She could vaguely guess what the 3 people were going to do. Her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of despair. Just as the grey-clothed youth's big hand was about to grab Qing Lian, an ear-piercing sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, a bloody light rushed toward them from the side. The grey-clothed youth was alerted. He suddenly pushed out his palms, and a surge of the power of heaven and earth condensed into a golden light shield in front of him. Boom! The bloody light flashed and directly blasted on the golden light shield. The golden light exploded, and an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing resounded. At this time, the grey-clothed youth finally noticed that the bloody light was actually a bloody spear. A trace of ferocity flashed in his eyes, and he said coldly, "Who is it? How dare you interfere with the affairs of the Marquis Mansion of Baichuan? Do you want to die? The one who wants to die is not me, but you." A clear voice suddenly rang out. Immediately, a figure with a pair of thunder wings on his back came in front of the grey-clothed youth. He stretched out his right hand and instantly pulled out the bloody spear that was deadlocked on the golden light shield. His right hand suddenly swept out, and the huge bloody spear violently bombarded the golden light shield again. Crack! Countless sparks burst out on the golden light shield, and traces of cracks continuously spread on the surface of the golden light shield. In the end, it collapsed inch by inch. The grey-clothed youth's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. Bang! The bloody spear was like a hot knife through butter, and like a huge door, it blasted directly on the chest of the grey-clothed youth. Puff! The grey-clothed youth spat out blood and flew backward. After being dragged on the ground for dozens of meters, he violently collided with a withered tree. A tall figure like a cypress tree, holding a bloody spear, leisurely stopped in front of Qing Lian. Then, the figure slowly turned around, revealing a young and delicate face. Zhuowen. The clothes of the young man in front of her fluttered without wind. His figure was as tall as a pine tree, and his smile was as warm as the rising sun. His straight back seemed to be able to carry the sky even if it collapsed. When she finally saw the gentle smile on the young man's face, Qing Lian, who had a cold expression, finally had her beautiful eyes turn red, and a line of tears slowly flowed down her cheeks. He came. He really came in the end. And he even saved her. In the most difficult and desperate situation, Qing Lian did not cry, did not give in, and did not beg for mercy. However, when she saw the warm smile on Zhuowen's face, she could no longer control her tears. Clear tears slowly flowed down like meteors that pierced through the night sky. In front of Zhuowen, Qing Lian no longer forced herself to hold on. She only wanted to pour out all the grievances and depression in her heart at this moment in front of the man in front of her. It's okay. I will help you get rid of all the obstacles. Chapter 458. Blood splatter. Qing Lian felt an indescribable sense of security for the first time as she felt the warmth from his hand. It was as if she would feel at ease as long as the young man was in front of her. Thank you, Qing Lian said softly as she lowered her head. Damn it. Who the hell are you? Don't you know we're from the Marquis of Baichuan's estate? The grey-clothed young man stood up in a sorry state as he stared at the young man before him with extreme fear. The young man couldn't help but be surprised by how easily the young man had broken through the golden barrier he'd released earlier. After all, he was an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator at the second wheel. Even Xu Liang shouldn't have been able to send him flying so cleanly. Zhuowen slowly turned around and stared at the three people with serious expressions. He said indifferently, "The dead have no right to know my name." The grey-clothed young man's face darkened when he heard this. He sneered, "What an arrogant kid. Do you think you're so great just because you were lucky enough to force me back? I'd like to see if you really have any moves up your sleeves. Let's attack together and get rid of this arrogant kid," the grey-clothed young man ordered to his companion beside him. The grey-clothed youth instructed his companion beside him. Then, a ferocious smile appeared on his face. He took a step forward, and directly rushed toward Zhuowen. Three powerful auras suddenly burst out, and the surrounding air even started to boil. Zhuowen, be careful. The three of them are all ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. Xu Qian is even an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator at the second wheel. You probably won't be a match for them if they work together. It's best if you don't care about me and flee on your own. At this moment, there was a trace of worry on Qing Lian's face. Earlier, Zhuowen had forcefully forced Xu Qian back, and it was indeed rather shocking. However, Qing Lian also knew that it was because Zhuowen had successfully launched a sneak attack while Xu Qian was unprepared. Zhuowen's aura was only at the peak of the second wheel of the ultimate Emperor realm. He might be able to win against the other two, but against Xu Qian, he would be completely suppressed. Now that Xu Qian and the other two had joined forces, Zhuowen basically had no chance of winning. Zhuowen shook his head and said indifferently, "Miss Qing Lian, there's no need to worry. I only need 5 breaths of time to deal with these 3 small fries." As he spoke, Zhuowen didn't notice the astonishment on Qing Lian's beautiful face. He stomped his foot and fearlessly moved to meet them head-on, and the blood-colored great spear in his right hand swiftly stabbed out, transforming into spear shadows that covered the sky as they enveloped Xu Qian's group of 3. "Arrogant fellow, this time I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death." Xu Qian and the other two had also heard Zhuowen's arrogant words. Especially when they heard Zhuowen say that the 3 of them were trash, the rage on their faces was extremely intense. Their expressions were as if they wished for nothing more than to skin Zhuowen alive. Low Emperor Tier Armor Skill, Raging Wave Fist. Low Emperor Tier Armor Skill, Divine Sun Claw. Low Emperor Tier Armor Skill, Thousand Rain Kill. In just an instant, the 3 of them had actually executed the Emperor Tier Armor skills that they were most proud of. For a time, the energy in an area of over 1 kilometer started to seethe, and the withered branches in the surroundings even collapsed successively under this formidable aura. When Qing Lian, who was leaning on a tree trunk at the back, saw Xu Qian's group of 3 execute Emperor Tier Armor skills as soon as they arrived, her beautiful face instantly turned ghastly pale. Obviously, Xu Qian's group of 3 intended to deal with Zhuowen as soon as possible. The resources and reserves of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate are really abundant. The three of them possess 3 different Emperor tier armor skills as soon as they make a move. At this moment, Zhuowen seemed to be extremely calm. Even though he was slightly surprised when he saw Shu Qian's group of 3 execute Emperor tier armor skills, he didn't take it seriously. Even though the might of Emperor tier armor skills was formidable, Zhuowen had numerous trump cards. Moreover, merely the strength of his body was comparable to a low-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure, so he was utterly unafraid of their attacks. Limitless startling cloud technique. Zhuowen didn't retreat but advanced instead. With a shake of his right hand, clouds and mist instantly suffused an area of over 100 m with him as the center, and Zhuowen was like a ghost within the clouds and mist. The attacks of the 3 instantly blasted into the clouds and mist, and the formidable force almost caused the space to distort. More than half of the clouds and mist in an area of over 100 m were annihilated by this force. What a strange armor skill. Is this kid actually hiding within the clouds and mist like a coward? Shu Qian's brows knit together tightly when the 3 attacks hit nothing, and he snorted coldly. Waves of aura surged out from his body and directly formed a violent hurricane in the surroundings. Whoosh! The violent hurricane was like a sickle that harvested rice. In the blink of an eye, the clouds and mist that lingered in the surroundings were annihilated and vanished under the effect of the hurricane. Kid, let's see where you can hide. Soon, Shu Qian noticed a robust figure nearby, and he sneered as he boldly flashed towards that figure. Rumble! Eat my fist! Arriving in front of the figure in an instant, Shu Qian's right fist suddenly blasted out. A wave of golden light erupted from his fist, and it was extremely dazzling as it directly blasted the figure's chest. Bang! A dull sound rang out, and the figure directly flew out as if he had suffered a heavy blow. He smashed over 10 m away and formed a huge pit. You really can't withstand a single blow. Looks like you were just bluffing before. Shu Qian grinned and said disdainfully. Bluffing? Do you really think you're hitting a human? Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded from behind Shu Qian, causing his pupils to shrink as his gaze directly landed on the robust figure in front of him. This is a puppet. The figure that was blasted away by him wasn't Zhuowen at all, but the image of a middle-aged uncle with a lifeless expression. Clearly, it was just a puppet without any vitality. Turning his head abruptly, Shu Qian discovered that Zhuowen's slender figure had unknowingly approached his other 2 companions. Haha. It's too late to discover it now. I'll gladly take your companions' lives. With a long laugh, Zhuowen suddenly shook the blood-red spear in his right hand as he once again used the limitless startling cloud technique. Immediately after, under the amplification of the limitless startling cloud technique, he executed the moves of the Demon Moon Secret Manual one move after another, and its might almost reached the point of collapsing the heavens and splitting the earth. In the first move, Zhuowen directly repelled the 2 cultivators. In the second move, the 2 cultivators spat out blood with terrified expressions, and in the third move, the 2 cultivators were instantly heavily injured. Stop! Seeing that Zhuowen had heavily injured his 2 companions in 3 moves, Shu Qian's face was filled with shock as he hurriedly shouted out. Poochie! Just as Shu Qian shouted out, Zhuowen's blood-colored great spear had already turned into a strange mark in the air. With a flash of blood-colored light, 2 large heads directly flew off, the color of blood shooting into the sky like a fountain. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Seeing the 2 heads fly up, Shu Qian's eyes instantly became extremely red. With a stomp of his feet, his entire body was like a humanoid machine as he charged towards Zhuowen with large strides. He must kill this bastard in front of him. Those 2 were his best companions, and they were actually killed just like that. Shu Qian's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Come on. With a stomp of his feet, Zhuowen transformed into a shadow as he charged directly towards Shu Qian, who had already fallen into madness, and the blood-red spear in his hand was ready to be shot out. Divine Sun Claw. Shu Qian's right hand formed a claw as he grabbed at the air. Countless strands of origin energy around his body boiled and expanded as a red sun gradually rose behind him. Within the red sun was a huge golden claw. Li! A clear bird's cry resounded from the red sun, and then the huge red sun smashed directly towards Zhuowen like a mountain. For me. With a cold snort, Zhuowen was not afraid at all. The blood-red spear in his right hand gradually expanded under the amplification of the cloud's startling limitless art, and turned into a huge blood-red spear that was dozens of feet long. It tore through the air and blasted directly onto the red sun. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded continuously from the ground, and countless waves of air spread out in a ring shape. The space distorted and the ground cracked. Die, die, die. Shu Qian was like a madman as he desperately activated the power of heaven and earth in his body. The red sun in front of him expanded again, and its aura skyrocketed, instantly suppressing the blood-red spear. Whoosh! The blood-red spear wailed and was directly thrown away. It was scattered on the ground, and its luster dimmed. Kid, there will never be a good ending for killing the people of the House of Marquis of Baichuan. Now, you will be buried with my companions. Shu Qian roared, and the huge red sun with the monstrous power of a mountain blasted towards the frail figure below. Slightly raising his head, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a trace of scarlet as he muttered, "Great Sun Divine Claw? I'll show you how I'll break it." As he took a step forward, countless bloody flames surged out from his body. The surface of his skin was covered with ferocious bloody lines, and the surrounding air instantly rose in temperature. He threw a punch into the air, and countless blood flames condensed into a huge blood hand. With a loud explosion, the blood hand directly grabbed the red sun. Under Shu Qian's horrified gaze, the monstrous red sun was like a toy ball in the blood hand, and it was swung around. Finally, the blood hand squeezed the air, and a powerful force burst out. Crack! Ripples appeared on the surface of the red sun, and then it turned into countless red fragments that were annihilated in the air. How is this possible? The Great Sun Divine Claw is broken? Shu Qian snorted and took a dozen steps back. Looking at the red sun that was easily broken, his eyes were filled with disbelief. "Shu Qian, I'll help you meet your two companions." A whistling sound rang out, and Shu Qian was horrified to find that Zhuowen had appeared above him. Wrapped in endless blood flames, Zhuowen looked like a stranger who had walked out of hell. With a light press of his right hand, countless blood flames burst forth. The blood flames formed a huge blood hand that directly blasted towards Shu Qian. "Damn it! Block it for me!" Shu Qian roared and blocked with both hands, releasing a blazing golden barrier. Crack! The golden barrier was like paper in front of the blood hand, and it collapsed inch by inch. Shu Qian spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. "Shu Qian, it's over." Chapter 459. Clean and tidy. Poochie. A column of blood spurted out. Shu Qian's eyes were wide open as his head was separated from his body. He was dead. The moment he killed Shu Qian, Zhuowen waved his right hand and took the Chenkuan bag from Shu Qian's waist. He was so thick-skinned that he didn't blush at all. So strong. Zhuowen is so strong. Isn't he just a two-wheel ultimate King Realm warrior? Seeing Shu Qian and the other two get killed so quickly, Qing Lian's cherry lips were slightly agape and her eyes were dull. Originally, she thought that Zhuowen would at least be caught in a tough battle and might even be defeated by Shu Qian and the other two. But she never thought that Zhuowen's strength would be so strong that Shu Qian and the other two were instantly defeated by Zhuowen. "Miss Qing Lian, are you alright?" After dealing with Shu Qian and the other two, Zhuowen stepped forward and came to Qing Lian's side. He took out some healing elixirs from his Chenkuan bag and gave them to her. Pushing the elixirs that Zhuowen handed to her, Qing Lian shook her head and said, "I have special elixirs in my Chenkuan bag. They are much more effective than ordinary elixirs, so there's no need to waste these elixirs." Seeing that Qing Lian refused, Zhuowen didn't insist. He nodded and put the elixirs back into his Chenkuan bag. Although these elixirs weren't very useful to him, they could still be of some use at a critical moment. And even if he didn't have them, he could take them back to Zhuo family and let Zhuo Xiangding distribute them to the family disciples. Qing Lian stole a glance at Zhuowen and hesitated slightly. She gritted her teeth and said, "Zhuowen, my junior sister Red Lotus is being hunted by Shu Liang. Can you help me save her?" In the beginning, Qing Lian didn't know Zhuowen's strength. She only thought that he was an ordinary two-wheel ultimate king realm warrior, so she didn't want to add to Zhuo Wen's trouble. However, Qing Lian knew that she'd underestimated Zhuo Wen's strength after witnessing how easily Zhuo Wen had dealt with Xu Qian and the others. After all, Xu Qian was a mid-second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, while the other two were early second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivators. The three of them couldn't take more than a few moves from Zhuo and Yang Chen. Clearly, Zhuo was comparable to a late-stage or even peak ultimate king realm warrior. If Zhuo was Zhuo, he might be able to save Red Lotus from Xu Liang. Your junior sister Red Lotus? Only now did Zhuo discover that the girl in red who had been by Qing Lian's side was no longer here. However, Zhuo wasn't a busybody. Zhuo didn't know Hong Lian, so Zhuo subconsciously didn't want to get involved. After all, although Xu Liang was only a late-stage ultimate king realm warrior, as the second genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate, he probably had many trump cards up his sleeves. If they really fought, he would definitely be no weaker than a peak ultimate king realm warrior. Zhuo was extremely repulsed by the fact that he didn't know such a troublesome opponent. Seeing Zhuo Wen's appearance, how could Qing Lian not know that Zhuo Wen was unwilling in his heart? Although she hadn't known Zhuo Wen for a long time, she also knew that the young man before her was extremely principled in doing things. If it wasn't related to him, he would absolutely not interfere. But if it was related to his own matters, this Zhuo Wen would absolutely risk his life. Qing Lian knew that Zhuo cared so much about her because she had helped Zhuo quite a bit in the past, so he had a much better impression of her. On the other hand, Hong Lian was someone who had nothing to do with Zhuo. With Zhuo's personality, he didn't want to get involved in other people's business. Qing Lian bit her lower lip as a trace of pleading appeared in her eyes. Zhuo, I beg you to save my junior sister. Otherwise, once she falls into Xu Liang's hands, she'll probably end up in a very miserable state. After a moment of silence, Zhuo nodded. Since Miss Qing Lian has requested it, it would be rather unreasonable of me to refuse. Tell me where Xu Liang has gone. Seeing Zhuo agree, Qing Lian let out a sigh of relief. She smiled sweetly and pointed to the dense forest in front of them. She said, Xu Liang and junior sister Hong Lian fled in this direction. That Xu Liang is extremely fast. You need to hurry over. Otherwise, it will be too late. Nodding, Zhuo waved his right hand and summoned the reverse spirit puppet from nearby. He surrounded Qing Lian and said, This puppet is at the peak of the ultimate king realm. Stay here and recover. The puppet will protect you. I'll be going first. With that, lightning flickered on Zhuo's back and a pair of large wings of lightning appeared. With a few flashes, he vanished into the dense forest ahead. A complicated expression appeared in Qing Lian's eyes as she watched the figure vanish into the distance. Back in the ancient dwelling, the young man before her had been far weaker than her. Although Zhuo was not bad at that time, he had yet to reach a breathtaking level. However, over 2 years later, the young man before her had actually grown so quickly. He hadn't relied on any organization or resources, relying solely on himself. Not only had he broken through to the ultimate king realm, his strength had far surpassed hers. Perhaps this is a heaven-sent genius. If senior sister Luo Xing knew about Zhuo's current strength, she probably wouldn't ignore him like she did in the past, Qing Lian murmured softly. Swoosh swoosh. 2 figures, one fleeing and one pursuing, flashed through the dense forest, causing many birds and beasts to roar in the depths of the forest. When the infuriated origin beasts sensed the presence of these 2 figures, they all quieted down and hid far away, not daring to approach. Little sister Red Lotus, why are you running? I, Xu Liang, promise you that as long as you give me your origin yin, I won't take your life. Moreover, after this battle for the origin Qi Tower, I will personally go to the Jade Maiden Star Court and formally marry you, so you don't have to worry too much about your chastity. The green-robed young man, Xu Liang, who was chasing from behind, stared fixedly at Red Lotus's graceful figure in front of him. His sinister eyes were full of ridicule. With his strength, it was extremely easy for him to catch up to Red Lotus, but he didn't do so. Instead, he enjoyed the feeling of a cat catching a mouse, especially when he saw the tear-stained face of the beautiful girl in front of him. This made Shu Liang even more excited. Shu Liang. You shameless, perverted, hoodlum. You usually look like a gentleman, but I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person. Formally marry? What right do you have to marry me? If you want my origin yin, don't even think about it. If I'm caught, I'll directly break my own heart and commit suicide. Red Lotus also saw that Shu Liang was playing cat and mouse, and her pretty face was filled with despair. She knew that with her strength of the ultimate emperor realm, she was no match for Shu Liang. Shu Liang's expression changed slightly when he heard this. He sneered, "Chimpate. Whether you're willing or not, I, Shu Liang, will take your origin yin. Even if you commit suicide, I have a way to get your origin yin from your corpse. If you want to commit suicide, you can do so now. Otherwise, I won't have to waste my energy chasing after you." Red Lotus's pretty face turned deathly pale when she heard this. She instantly understood what Shu Liang wanted to do. Even if she died, Shu Liang wouldn't let her corpse go. Red Lotus's heart was filled with fear when she thought about how her corpse was going to be ravaged by this person behind her. This Shu Liang is a pervert. I can't fall into his hands, or else. Red Lotus didn't dare to think about it any further. After Shu Liang's threat, Red Lotus's desire to die had completely disappeared. What she wanted now was to meet her senior sister Luo Xing from the Jade Maiden Celestial Court in the forest and save her from the bastard Shu Liang. Forget it. I'm not playing anymore. I'll just catch you and take your origin yin. Soon, a trace of impatience appeared on Shu Liang's face. He took several steps in the air and turned into a series of after-images. In an instant, he had closed the distance between him and Red Lotus. Soon, he was only a few feet away from her. Red Lotus's pretty face turned deathly pale when she heard the sound of something breaking through the air behind her. She bit her lower lip and slapped her Chenkuan bag with her jade-like hand. She threw out many defensive spirit treasures, but unfortunately, they were only medium and high-grade spirit treasures. There are quite a few spirit treasures in your Chenkuan bag, but they're all trash. They can't stop me at all, haha. Shu Liang laughed out loud. With a sweep of his right hand, a powerful force sent the incoming spiritual treasures flying. With a leap, he arrived behind Hong Lian in an instant. With a slap of his hand, he slammed it onto Hong Lian's shoulder. Fart. Red Lotus spat out a mouthful of blood. Her pretty face was drained of color. Her delicate body trembled and fell from the sky like a withered leaf. Fortunately, Shu Liang's attack was very measured. He didn't intend to seriously injure Red Lotus, so Red Lotus still had some strength left. She twisted her slim waist in midair. Just as she was about to hit the ground, she dissipated the force and knelt on one knee. Whoosh! Shu Liang rushed over and stopped not far away. He looked mockingly at Red Lotus, who was trembling like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Hee. Once I take Red Lotus Vital Yin, my Dark Yin finger will reach perfection. Furthermore, I can use the Vital Yin of the Extreme Yin body to break through to the peak of the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm. If I'm lucky, I might even be able to reach the third wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Shu Liang's eyes burned with passion when he thought of the legends of the Extreme Yin body and its various benefits. He suddenly took a step forward and his right hand formed a claw as he extended it towards Red Lotus. It's over. What should I do now? Red Lotus' mind went blank as she stared at Shu Liang's approaching claw. Her delicate body trembled violently as she stood rooted to the spot. Her beautiful eyes were filled with dense mist. Swish! Just as Shu Liang's claw was about to make contact with Red Lotus' delicate body, there was a sharp sound of something tearing through the air. Soon after, a strange streak of blood-red light shot through the air and headed straight for Shu Liang's chest. Shu Liang's eyelids twitched. His claw that had originally been aimed at Red Lotus suddenly changed direction and slammed into the streak of blood-red light. Thump! 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 The tremendous force caused Shu Liang's eyes to shrink. He couldn't help but take a dozen steps back. He stared at the dense forest behind him with a gloomy expression and said, "Who is it? To actually launch a sneak attack?" Chapter 460. Black Dragon Halberd Zhuowen. Rustling sounds rang out as a tall and straight figure slowly appeared in front of them. Red Lotus's beautiful eyes lit up as she immediately recognized this figure as Zhuowen. However, the light in Red Lotus's eyes quickly dimmed. Although Zhuowen had appeared, she knew that Zhuowen was only at the early stage of the second wheel while Shu Liang was at the late stage of the second wheel. The difference between the two was too great. Zhuowen was simply throwing his life away. Red Lotus bit her lower lip and hurriedly shook her head. Zhuowen, Shu Liang is at the late stage of the second wheel. You're no match for him. Hurry up and leave. If possible, go save senior sister Clear Lotus. Don't come here to throw your life away. Shifting his gaze slightly, Zhuowen's gaze focused on Hong Lian. Seeing that Hong Lian was reminding him out of goodwill, Zhuowen's expression froze. Soon after, a trace of a smile appeared on his face. Hong Lian's heart was pretty good. She was clearly in a dangerous situation, yet she still had the mood to advise others to flee. Zhuowen? The Zhuowen from that low-level city, Rattan Armor City? Shu Liang narrowed his eyes. He was already somewhat familiar with Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen had caused a stir when he took the Empyrean Steely test, so he had some impression of this Zhuowen. Now that Red Lotus had called out Zhuowen's name, he naturally recognized Zhuowen. Narrowing his eyes, he said indifferently, "Brat from a low-level city, your luck is pretty good to be able to enter the second level of the Origin Chi Tower. If you don't want to die in the dark forest, hurry up and scram. Don't get in my way." Zhuowen looked past Shu Liang and stared at Red Lotus behind him with a smile. "Don't worry, Miss Red Lotus. I've already saved Clear Lotus. This time, it was Clear Lotus who asked me to come and save you." Red Lotus was startled when she heard this. Puzzled, she asked, "You saved senior sister Clear Lotus? I remember that the other 3 people from Marquis House of Baichuan should be with senior sister Clear Lotus. Did you save senior sister from those 3 people?" In Hong Lian's opinion, although Zhuowen's strength was not bad, there was still a certain gap between him and the other 3 from the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. After all, just Shu Qian's cultivation was at the mid-stage of the ultimate king realm, a level higher than Zhuowen's. The other 2's cultivation was similar to Zhuowen's. He did not believe that Zhuowen could successfully save Qing Lian from the 3 of them. Yes. At the same time, I also got rid of Shu Qian and the other 2 trash, so Qing Lian is very safe now. Zhuowen nodded seriously. What? You killed Shu Qian and the other 2? Shu Liang, who originally had a gloomy expression because of Zhuowen's disregard, revealed a trace of astonishment when he heard Zhuowen's words. Shortly after, he sneered, "Zhuowen, there should be a limit to your jokes. You can kill Shu Qian and the other 2 with your strength." Hong Lian's pretty face also had a trace of disbelief. At the same time, she was somewhat disappointed in Zhuowen. Zhuowen, who had been constantly mentioned by senior sister Clear Lotus, turned out to be such a vain person. He clearly didn't have the strength, yet he insisted on boasting in front of others. Joke? I, Zhuowen, never joke. If you don't believe me, take a look at what this is. Zhuowen directly ignored the sneer on Shu Liang's face. He slapped his Chenkuan bag with his right hand, and 3 large heads flew out and rolled at Shu Liang's feet. These 3 heads were naturally Shu Qian and the other 2. Shu Qian, Shu Ri, Shu Yang. The sneer on Shu Liang's face slowly froze, and it was replaced by shock. He originally thought that Zhuowen was joking, but now that the heads of Shu Qian and the other 2 had really appeared beneath his feet, he knew that the 3 of them were probably really dead. Moreover, they had died at the hands of this young man. Behind him, Hong Lian was stunned as well. Her eyes widened as she stared straight at the 3 heads at Shu Liang's feet. She covered her hand gently and murmured, "Zhuowen actually killed the 3 of them, but Zhuowen is clearly only at the early second wheel, while Shu Qian is at the mid-second wheel. Shu Ri and Shu Yang are at the early second wheel as well, yet they were still killed by Zhuowen even when they worked together." Shifting her gaze slightly, Hong Lian's beautiful eyes once again focused on the slender figure of the young man in front of her. She suddenly realized how wrong her thoughts were. Zhuowen was not simple at all. No wonder senior sister Clear Lotus often talks about Zhuowen. He really is not simple. Hong Lian said with a complicated expression. Zhuowen, I'll kill you. You actually dared to kill the people of my Marquis of Baichuan's estate. A terrifying aura suddenly surged out as a seemingly corporeal killing intent slowly rose in Shu Liang's eyes. He stared fixedly at Zhuowen with his scarlet-red eyes. With a roar, he took a step forward and instantly shot towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Shu Liang, don't worry. Shu Qian and the other two are waiting for you in the underworld. I'll send you down to join them as soon as possible. Zhuowen knew that since he had already killed the three of them, then he was already irreconcilable with the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. However, if he could directly kill Shu Liang in the dark forest, then the Marquis of Baichuan's estate might not suspect him. So, Shu Liang must die. With that, Zhuowen was awe-inspiring and fearless. The pair of thunder wings on his back suddenly opened and closed, leaving behind a series of thunder shadows in the void as he instantly dodged Shu Liang's attack that was flying towards him. His feet repeatedly stepped in the void as he pulled out his right hand from behind his back. The blood-red spear suddenly appeared in his palm. With a flick of his 5 fingers, the blood-red spear violently rotated and turned into a strange blood-red light in mid-air that pierced towards the back of Shu Liang's head. Humph! Shu Liang snorted coldly as he patted his Chenkuan bag with his right hand and suddenly pulled out a large halberd that was shrouded in black mist. A terrifying aura burst out from the large halberd. Shu Liang swung the large halberd back at the critical moment, and the huge and terrifying halberd tip instantly collided with the tip of the blood-red spear. Bang! The halberd tip and spear tip collided, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The crisp and pleasant sound of metal clashing resounded as waves of air continued to emanate from the two. It's just a high-grade spirit treasure. Watch how my black dragon halberd breaks your spear. Shu Liang's face was cold as he stepped on the ground. His right hand gripped the halberd tightly while his left hand slapped the bottom of the large halberd. A huge force burst out and directly sent the blood-red spear flying. Earth-rank spirit treasure? His expression changed slightly. Shu Liang was indeed the second genius of Marquis House of Baichuan. He had taken out a rare earth-rank spirit treasure. The black dragon halberd's aura was extremely terrifying, but it was much weaker than the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. It should be a low-grade earth-rank spirit treasure. You're obviously a lowly person from a low-grade city, but you're quite knowledgeable. Presumably, it's the first time a lowly person like you has seen such a treasure. You should be able to die in peace under my black dragon halberd. With a sinister smile, Shu Liang stepped on the air and stretched out his right hand to grab the black dragon halberd that was still in mid-air. The halberd's body tightened and the black dragon halberd's momentum did not decrease as it directly pierced towards Zhuowen's chest. Because the blood-red spear was directly sent flying by the black dragon halberd, Zhuowen did not have any weapons on him. In Shu Liang's opinion, Zhuowen was dead meat. Not far away, when Hong Lian saw this scene, her pretty face changed and her heart was in a mess. You're not the only one with an earth-rank spirit treasure. I have one too. As the black dragon halberd approached, Zhuowen's expression was not the slightest bit flustered. He waved his right hand and immediately summoned the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron that was several feet in size. He slapped the cauldron and the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron directly blocked in front of Zhuowen. Ding! A crisp sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out as the black dragon halberd ruthlessly pierced the surface of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. Countless sparks burst out, but in the end, it was unable to advance at all. Instead, Shu Liang could not help but retreat due to the rebound force. What? You actually have an earth-rank spirit treasure? You, a lowly person from a low-grade city, actually have such a treasure? Rubbing his numb hand, Shu Liang's pupils constricted as he looked at the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in front of Zhuowen. A trace of shock appeared on his face. Moreover, he faintly discovered that the aura of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in front of Zhuowen was even stronger than the black dragon halberd in his hand. The aura of this strange cauldron in this kid's hand is so vast that it far surpasses the black dragon halberd. Could it be a mid-grade earth-rank spirit treasure? It might even be a high-grade earth-rank spirit treasure. It can't be wrong. The cauldron in this kid's hand is definitely an earth-rank spirit treasure that surpasses the black dragon halberd in quality. Haha, this lowly person from a low-grade city has no ability to possess such a treasure. This cauldron should be given to me. Thinking of this, Shu Liang's eyes immediately revealed a trace of greed. He knew that if he obtained this cauldron, it would be enough to make up for the loss of Shu Qian and the others. No wonder a two-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator like you was able to kill Shu Qian and the other two. It turns out that you possess such an earth-rank spirit treasure. Haha, kid, such a treasure is simply a waste on you. Only I am worthy of such a treasure. Give it to me. Laughing loudly, Shu Liang stomped his foot and his entire body turned into a shadow. He had already made up his mind to kill Zhuowen and seize the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. I'm just afraid that it will burn your hands. In my opinion, it's better for you to give me the black dragon halberd in your hand. With a cold snort, Zhuowen patted the cauldron's body. The fire vent at the bottom of the cauldron suddenly spat out the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames. The 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames were like 2 giant blue and green dragons. They intertwined in the air and suddenly pounced toward Shu Liang. Earth fire. And 2 types of earth fire. This cauldron is indeed amazing. It can actually contain such a wondrous item as earth fire. Haha, this cauldron is mine. Die. Seeing that the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron was spitting out 2 types of earth fire, the greed in Shu Liang's eyes became even more intense. One had to know that earth fire was extremely powerful. Very few containers could withstand the corrosion of earth fire. This was also the reason why even some supreme experts were unable to obtain earth fire. However, the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in Zhuowen's hand had completely exceeded his expectations. Not only was it powerful, but it could also contain the power of earth fire. This made him even more determined to obtain the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. Boom! Boom! With a swing of the black dragon halberd, Shu Liang directly annihilated the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames. He stomped his foot in the air and waved his right hand. The black dragon halberd turned into a terrifying black light that swept toward Zhuowen. I told you, this thing will only burn your hand. Chapter 461. Dark Underworld Finger Appears Kai. A scorching sound rang out. With Zhuowen as the center, the temperature rose at an unbelievable speed. The surrounding air was torn apart and evaporated. Feeling the rapidly rising temperature, Shu Liang frowned. However, he did not stop moving forward. Instead, he took several steps in the air and rushed towards Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. The black dragon halberd emitted an endless black energy mist. It cut through the air and instantly reached Zhuowen's chest. Boom! When the black dragon halberd was about 10 feet in front of his chest, Zhuowen's body moved without any wind. Waves of powerful hurricane-like air waves burst out from his body. Soon after, the blue and green flames spiraled up from Zhuowen's feet and completely covered Zhuowen. Bang! As the black dragon halberd approached, countless blue and green sparks exploded. Shu Liang's pupils shrank. When the black dragon halberd came into contact with the 2 colored flames, it was as if it was piercing an indestructible steel. It was unable to move forward even half an inch. What kind of flame is this? It can actually block the black dragon halberd. Looking at the 2 colored flames surrounding Zhuowen, Shu Liang's face became a little solemn. He felt that the power of this strange 2 colored flame was faintly above the earth fire. Boom! The 2 colored flames suddenly shrank. From the spiraling flames, a dragon-like fire pillar gushed out and directly blasted towards Shu Liang's face. Humph! Snorting coldly, Shu Liang was not afraid. He flicked his right hand and the black dragon halberd turned into numerous black shadows and blasted onto the 2 colored flame pillar. Countless forces swirled in the air. What surprised Shu Liang was that the halberd seemed to have blasted onto a towering mountain. It was heavy and stagnant. Thump! 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 Retreating a dozen steps, the black dragon halberd suddenly stopped on the ground. Xu Liang's face became extremely gloomy. He did not expect the two colored flames released by Zhuowen to be so powerful. The web between his thumb and forefinger was still numb. Boom! The two fire pillars disappeared and a slender figure walked out slowly from the fire pillars. He stared at Xu Liang and said, "I heard that you are the second genius of the House of Marquis of Baichuan. Is this all you've got?" Hearing this, Xu Liang's face instantly darkened. A trace of anger appeared in his eyes as he coldly snorted, "Arrogant brat, don't think you're so great just because you have the upper hand." As he spoke, Xu Liang held the black dragon halberd horizontally with both hands. His right foot tapped against the ground, and a terrifying aura burst out from Xu Liang's body. "Black dragon ultimate kill, brat, since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." With a low roar, the tip of Xu Liang's foot tapped on the ground. With a swoosh sound, Xu Liang's entire body swept over like a swimming dragon. The surface of the black dragon halberd continuously released a terrifying ink-black fog, completely enveloping Xu Liang and the halberd. Awoo! In an instant, black fog filled the air wherever Xu Liang passed. A resonant dragon's roar exploded in the air like a thunderclap, causing the surroundings to shake. Within the black fog, Xu Liang transformed into a huge black dragon and pounced towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. With a stomp of his foot, countless two-colored flames transformed into two-colored walls of fire in front of him. The surging heat incessantly roasted the surrounding space, almost distorting it. "It's useless. The might of my Black Dragon ultimate kill is comparable to the full strength attack of a peak ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Your two-colored flames are indeed powerful, but it's only comparable to the attack of a peak ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Hehe, break it for me." Xu Liang sneered. The huge black dragon smashed through the walls of fire in front of Zhuowen like a hot knife through butter. "Zhuowen, go to hell. You're already quite capable to force me to use the Black Dragon ultimate kill. However, this is as far as you go." The walls of fire crumbled inch by inch. Zhuowen's figure immediately appeared around 3 meters away. The huge dragon head that Xu Liang had transformed into suddenly roared. Its gaping maw, which was as tall as a man, unceremoniously swallowed Zhuowen. No. Not far away, Hong Lian had also witnessed this scene. Her pretty face had turned ghastly pale. The might of Xu Liang's black dragon extermination had already exceeded her expectations. The black dragon's might had already surpassed that of a late second wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, and it was faintly approaching the strength of a peak second wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. She could sense that the huge black dragon was so powerful that it could devour a peak ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Although Zhuowen's strength was extraordinary, Hong Lian didn't believe that Zhuowen could last long under the attack of the black dragon. "Is an attack comparable to a peak ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator very strong?" Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He took a light step forward and extended his right hand. The moment he extended his right hand, a strange blood-red flame circled around Zhuowen's arm. Sinister lines of blood appeared on the exposed skin of his arm. The lines of blood were like living blood vessels. They gradually spread from Zhuowen's right hand to his entire body. In an instant, the temperature around Zhuowen reached an unimaginable level. Within the black dragon, Xu Liang immediately sneered when he saw that Zhuowen had only extended one hand. "This kid is dead for sure. He's actually using his right hand to resist. He's simply courting death." Boom! There was a thunderous rumble. The moment the black dragon came into contact with Zhuowen's outstretched hand, it instantly came to a halt. Xu Liang's pupils constricted as he discovered that the black dragon was collapsing inch by inch from head to tail. Thump, thump, thump. The black dragon was annihilated in an instant, and a powerful shockwave spread out like ripples. Xu Liang let out a muffled groan and retreated several dozen steps before he managed to stabilize himself. "How is this possible? You actually took my black dragon kill with your bare hands and even broke it." Xu Liang placed his right hand on his chest as he stared at the youth in front of him in shock. At this moment, Zhuowen had also been forced back a dozen steps due to the huge recoil. However, his physical body was too strong. With a shake of his muscles, he managed to offset the recoil that had spread throughout his body. Although the Jadestone body tempering technique was only a heaven-tier body tempering technique, Zhuowen had cultivated it to perfection. His body was as tough as steel. When Zhuowen had broken through to the 7th level, the flower of flames had mutated and merged with his body. His body's strength had become even more abnormal. This was the appearance of the blood-red flames. After cultivating to the 7th level, Zhuowen's body was much stronger than ordinary cultivators who cultivated to the 7th level of the Jadestone body tempering technique. He was completely capable of taking on a peak second wheel ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Not far away, Hong Lian was even more shocked than Xu Liang. She had personally experienced just how powerful the Black Dragon extermination was, but Zhuowen had caught it with his bare hands. What a powerful body. Just his physical strength alone is comparable to a peak second wheel ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Xu Liang's face sank. Zhuowen's strength had exceeded his expectations. He was clearly just a lowly commoner from a low-level city, but he actually had so many trump cards. Xu Liang, if you have any other moves, feel free to use them. If you don't, you can go accompany Xu Qian and the other two. Zhuowen's expression was cold. He suddenly took a step forward and countless blood-red flames surrounded him. He suddenly punched out with his right fist. The surrounding blood-red flames whistled through the air like a storm, forming a huge blood-red fist. Zhuowen, don't get carried away. Xu Liang was furious when he heard this. He glared viciously at Zhuowen and took a step forward, dodging Zhuowen's huge blood-red fist. You think you can dodge it? With a cold snort, Zhuowen's lightning wings opened and closed behind him. He transformed into a swift lightning shadow and instantly arrived in front of Xu Liang. His blood-red fist mercilessly punched towards Xu Liang's chest. Xu Liang had just dodged the blood-red fist. He had not expected Zhuowen to charge directly at him, so he was completely unprepared. At this moment, Zhuowen was close to him. He seemed to have lost his head out of fear. He pushed out with both hands and a golden light exploded in front of him, forming a golden barrier. Rumble. His fist slammed into the golden barrier. Golden light flowed out and exploded in all directions. The barrier instantly crumbled inch by inch. The fist broke through the golden barrier like a hot knife through butter and finally landed on Xu Liang's chest. Fart. Xu Liang's face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body instantly fell from the sky like a withered leaf. Xu Liang was an experienced person. When he was close to the ground, his waist twisted strangely and his feet kicked in the void. In an instant, he created a recoil force on the ground and landed lightly. Xu Liang's face was extremely pale as he knelt on the ground with one knee. Zhuowen, you're really good. You've forced me to this extent. If I don't tear you into pieces, I'm not worthy of being called the second genius of the Marquis Mansion. Xu Liang roared in a low voice like a wild beast. He stretched out a finger in the void and a surge of surging primordial qi crazily condensed in the void behind Xu Liang. Rip! A crack suddenly appeared in the void and a huge black finger that was hundreds of feet long swept out from the crack. It was like a huge mountain and directly descended on the forest. In an instant, the sky changed color. Xu Liang really used the underworld shadow finger. Zhuowen, you have to be careful. The underworld shadow finger is the forbidden skill of the Marquis Mansion. It's extremely powerful. Hong Lian's pretty face changed slightly as she quickly reminded Zhuowen. Underworld shadow finger? Forbidden skill? Looking at the huge black finger in the sky, Zhuowen's face became serious. This was because the finger gave off an extremely terrifying aura. This aura was extremely strong, as if the sky and earth were falling apart. It's actually the underworld shadow finger. It seems that the Marquis Mansion is quite lucky to have such a powerful forbidden skill. The underworld shadow finger was quite famous in ancient times. If one fully mastered the underworld shadow finger, the power they could unleash would be comparable to a superior Emperor armor skill. However, looking at Xu Liang's moves, the underworld shadow finger his learned should be incomplete. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded. A superior Emperor armor skill? This forbidden skill called the underworld shadow finger is so powerful. Zhuowen was shocked when he heard this. One had to know that a superior Emperor armor skills power was extremely terrifying. It could greatly increase the strength of an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. For example, if an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator of the same level had a superior Emperor armor skill, then he would be able to crush the other without one. Chapter 462. Two Fingers Weeping Ghosts. Is the Dark Shadow Finger really that terrifying? Zhuowen asked with an unprecedentedly solemn expression. It is indeed terrifying. After all, the Dark Shadow Finger was considered a forbidden technique in ancient times. Now I know why Shu Liang wants to kill Hong Lian. I'm afraid he wants Hong Lian's vital yin. Xiao Hei's voice sounded again. Vital yin? Zhuowen was puzzled. Yes. The cultivation method of the Dark Shadow Finger is not ordinary. It cannot be cultivated through ordinary methods. Instead, it requires the primordial yin of a young woman. With the help of the cold attribute of the primordial yin, the Dark Shadow Finger can absorb the corresponding energy and continuously evolve and strengthen. Xiao Hei paused for a moment and continued, "Don't you realize that Hong Lian is not ordinary? This girl has an extreme yin body that is rarely seen in 100 years. The strength of her vital yin is comparable to the vital yin of hundreds of young women. If Shu Liang absorbs this girl's vital yin, he can directly cultivate the Dark Shadow Finger to the complete realm. Its power will become extremely terrifying." Hearing this, Zhuowen finally understood why Shu Liang wanted to kill Qing Lian and Hong Lian. After all, they were backed by the 5 superforces in the prefecture capital. It was not a good idea to offend them. However, Shu Liang did it and even killed Qing Lian and Hong Lian. Obviously, the vital yin of an extreme yin body was very attractive to him. "Zhuowen, let's see if you can withstand my Dark Shadow Finger." Shu Liang glared at Zhuowen with a venomous expression. He pointed his right finger at the void and shouted, "Dark Shadow Finger, one finger shocks heaven and earth." Rumble. The dark nether finger, which was hundreds of feet long, tore through the void and headed straight for Zhuowen. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and collapsed layer by layer. Zhuowen's face was solemn. For the first time, he felt the terror and power of the Dark Shadow Finger. However, he did not retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and reached out with his right hand. He pushed the surrounding blood flames to the limit and condensed a blood hand, which was hundreds of feet long, in the void. Its power was not inferior to the Dark Shadow Finger. Rumble. The black finger and the bloody hand instantly collided, causing ripples in the surrounding space. As the ripples spread, the space collapsed inch by inch, and the surrounding trees were turned into dust and nothingness. Just the aftershock of the collision between the two had already reached such a terrifying level. This caused Hong Lian, who was not far away, to be stunned. She continuously retreated, resisting the aftershock of the surrounding airwaves. "Break!" Shu Liang roared and pressed down with his right finger. His eyes were filled with madness. The black finger in the air seemed to have sensed Shu Liang's emotions. An ink-black brilliance overflowed in all directions, and its might surged violently. For a moment, it directly suppressed the bloody hand. Catcher. Traces of cracks appeared on the surface of the huge bloody hand. Soon after, the cracks widened and the huge bloody hand was directly annihilated into nothingness in the void. The dark nether finger was ready to be unleashed with irresistible force. It rode the wind and waves as it descended towards Zhuowen below. With a muffled groan, Zhuowen could not help but retreat a few dozen meters. He raised his head slightly and looked at the dark underworld finger that was rolling down. His face revealed a deep grave expression. "9-wheel burning sky cauldron, open for me." Zhuowen no longer held back. He slapped the lid of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron with his right hand, and the huge 9-wheel burning sky cauldron's fire vent instantly spewed out 4 different types of flames. The blue 9 heavens thunder blazing flame, the green 3000 green lotus flame, the colorful star blazing flame, and the strange blood flame. The 4 types of powerful earth flames instantly merged and turned into a 4-colored firestorm. It was like a fire pillar that connected the heavens and the earth, directly blasting towards the dark underworld finger in the air. What? This Zhuowen actually has 4 types of earth flames. Damn it. Shu Liang also noticed the 4 types of earth flames spewing out from the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The rarity of earth flames was well known. It was already considered extremely lucky to have 1 type of earth flame. However, Zhuowen actually had 4 types of earth flames. How could this not shock Shu Liang? Boom. The firestorm above Zhuowen directly blocked the dark underworld finger. After the impact of the bloodhand, the dark underworld finger was much dimmer than before. Now that it was blocked by the firestorm, it could not advance at all. Instead, it was suppressed by the firestorm. He blocked it. Red Lotus, who was not far away, was pleasantly surprised. The Zhuowen in front of her had really brought her many surprises. He had an endless stream of trump cards, and each of them was stronger than the last. She really did not know where Zhuowen's limit was. Maybe this Zhuowen can defeat Shu Liang. Red Lotus's face, which was originally filled with despair, was now replaced by hope. At this moment, Shu Liang's expression was extremely ugly. At the same time, his heart was in turmoil. Zhuowen's strength had already exceeded his expectations. This kid must be killed. Otherwise, if this kid continues to grow, even Big Brother may not be able to deal with this little bastard in the future. It seems like I can only use that move. Shu Liang felt more and more threatened by Zhuowen. One had to know that Zhuowen was much younger than him, and his cultivation level was also much lower. However, when it came to fighting, Zhuowen was actually suppressing him. This kind of strength that far exceeded one's cultivation level could only be achieved by those extremely monstrous geniuses. However, Zhuowen had done it. Clearly, Zhuowen's potential was comparable to those monstrous geniuses. Thinking of this, the killing intent in Shu Liang's heart became even more intense. He suddenly stepped forward and pointed his finger again. In an instant, the surrounding yuan qi violently boiled again. Moreover, the power this time was even more intense and terrifying than the first time Shu Liang used the dark underworld finger. The surrounding yuan qi almost turned into hurricanes that constantly raged and overflowed. After the firestorm, Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He also felt the terrifying power around Shu Liang. It was a sign that he was about to release a powerful move. Moreover, he had a premonition that Shu Liang's move this time would definitely be more powerful than the dark underworld finger. This Shu Liang actually has an even more powerful move. This dark underworld finger is already abnormal enough. This Zhuowen was also somewhat helpless. Shu Liang's difficulty had somewhat exceeded his expectations. The top geniuses of the 5 superforces were indeed not to be trifled with. Dark underworld finger, 2 fingers weeping ghosts and gods. Suddenly roaring, Shu Liang's second finger pointed at the void. Above the void behind him, an even bigger hole was torn open. From that huge hole, a black finger that was close to 1,000 feet long slowly stretched out. The strange thing was that the surface of this even bigger black finger was actually filled with a thick ink-black fog. Within the fog, countless ghostly faces were faintly discernible. Terrifying and ear-piercing howls constantly reverberated in the area. The heart-wrenching howls spread, causing the meta beasts within 100 miles of the dark forest to tremble. Even some of the more timid ancient martial art practitioners did not dare to come close at all. This was because they had already recognized the forbidden technique of the dark underworld finger. In Muqin County, only the house of Marquis Baichuan possessed such a forbidden technique. Moreover, the people in the house of Marquis Baichuan were not to be trifled with. If one was not careful, one's life would be in danger. Therefore, some of the ancient martial art practitioners who were nearby suppressed the curiosity in their hearts and hid far away. They did not dare to come close. In an open space close to 1,000 miles southeast of the dense forest where Shu Liang was, a young man with a gloomy gaze walked slowly. The young man's right hand was casually playing with 2 round balls. There was a strange black fog lingering around the young man's body. Waves of powerful aura constantly spread out from the fog. After sensing the black fog around the young man, many of the meta beasts in the dense forest looked fearful and hid far away. The aura of the dark underworld finger? In the house of Marquis Baichuan, other than me, Only second brother possesses such a forbidden technique. However, in this dark forest, what is it that is worth second brother to use the dark underworld finger? The young man's right hand paused and the two rolling balls stopped in his palm. Soon after, the young man raised his head. Under the thin light, a cold and handsome face appeared. It was the number one genius of the house of Marquis Baichuan, Xu Tianliang. Crack! Xu Tianliang's right hand suddenly clenched. His gaze darkened as he said, "What? The aura of the dark underworld finger has doubled. Did second brother use the second move of the dark underworld finger? Damn it, with second brother's strength, what is there in the dark forest that requires him to make such a big fuss? No, I must go and take a look." Whoosh! With a stomp of his foot, Xu Tianliang silently disappeared from where he was. There is a second move of the dark underworld finger. Looking at the huge black finger in the sky, accompanied by countless ghost shadows, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. The power of the second move of the dark underworld finger was somewhat out of Zhuowen's expectation. It was much stronger than the first move. Poochie! Before the huge black finger completely came out of the void, Xu Tianliang groaned and his face became extremely pale. He actually spat out a mouthful of blood. Obviously, Xu Tianliang's dark underworld finger was not refined to perfection. Damn it! Second finger, come out for me. I must kill this Zhuowen. Xu Tianliang's eyes were filled with madness. The power of heaven and earth in his body poured out like crazy. The huge black finger that was originally stagnant in the void suddenly blasted open the void and smashed down with a rumble. It seems that there is no need to hide. If I don't use my full strength, it is impossible to block the second move of the dark underworld finger. Licking his lips, Zhuowen's eyes had a trace of excitement. Ever since his mental strength broke through to the 4th level, Zhuowen had not used his mental strength in a battle. With a thought, the mud-pill palace in the depths of his eyebrows suddenly began to rotate. Waves of mental strength poured out like a tide, with Zhuowen as the center, forming a transparent domain. Under the effect of this mental strength, Zhuowen floated under his feet, slowly floating several feet above the ground. Mental strength. This Zhuowen is also an arcana master. Not far away, Xu Tianliang noticed Zhuowen's strange state and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. But soon, he sneered and said, This kid is stupid, isn't he? Arcana masters are not suited for battle. Using mental strength is completely useless unless he is a 4th level arcana master. Xu Tianliang shook his head. Arcana masters were extremely weak, especially before reaching the 4th level. They were as weak as mortals. Of course, once an arcana master reached the 4th level, they would undergo a qualitative change. Their battle prowess would reach the point where even ultimate Emperor realm cultivators would not dare to fight them. Boom! The earth quaked as Zhuowen floated in the air. The mental strength on the surface of his body had increased by several times. Countless strands of mental strength seemed to materialize into terrifying gusts of wind. Chapter 463. Xu Tianliang. Countless gusts of wind converged, forming a spiritual storm that covered the sky. The tremendous power even cracked the ground within a radius of several hundred feet, and countless trees were crushed into powder. A 4th-grade arcanist? How is that possible? How can this kid be a 4th-grade arcanist? Xu Tianliang's eyes widened, unable to believe what he saw. As the second son of the Marquis of Baichuan, he naturally knew how rare and mysterious arcanists were. Among them, a 4th-grade arcanist was enough to obtain a very high status and reputation in the prefecture capital. Even his father, Marquis of Baichuan, did not dare to offend such an existence, because the power behind the arcanists was the Arcanist Guild, which was almost all over the Heavenly Armor continent. There was a branch of the Arcanist Guild in the prefecture capital, which was as powerful as the 5 superpowers in the prefecture capital. However, because the Arcanist Guild in the prefecture capital was very low-key, it was not as famous as the 5 superpowers, but the 5 superpowers did not dare to underestimate the existence of the Arcanist Guild. Moreover, the battle for the Vitality Tower was a competition for talented warriors, and there were very few arcanists participating in it. This was because arcanists who did not have 4th grade spiritual power would always be much weaker than warriors, so they would only end up being abused if they participated. A 4th grade arcanist under the age of 30 was even rarer, which was why the Arcanist Guild did not participate in the battle for the Vitality Tower. Of course, Zhuowen's dual cultivation of spiritual power, and to reach such a high level of both, were very rare. He was probably 1 in 10,000. How old is this Zhuowen now? His spiritual strength cultivation has reached level 4. This is too monstrous. Red Lotus, who was not far away, also saw this scene and was so shocked that she almost bit her tongue. After spitting out this sentence, she did not know what to say. A 4th grade arcanist. Even the entire Jade Lady Astral Court did not have such an existence. The highest level was only a 3rd grade arcanist at the Great Perfection. Moreover, Zhuowen was so young, and his future was limitless. At this time, the soles of his feet floated in the air. Zhuowen's expression was cold. With a thought, he waved his right hand, and the spiritual storm in front of him rumbled and annihilated the space, directly bombarding the huge pitch-black finger above the void. Rumble. The dark underworld finger and the spiritual storm clashed together. Countless astral winds collapsed, and the space was distorted and torn apart. The layers of collapse caused ripples to spread out, annihilating everything in the surroundings. For a moment, the two were in a stalemate in the void. The dark nether finger has been blocked. Xu Liang's expression grew uglier and uglier. Zhuo Wen's spiritual force of the 4th rank had greatly exceeded his expectations. After all, the spiritual force of a 4th rank Arcana Master was extremely powerful. Even an initial 4th rank Arcana Master's strength was comparable to a 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. This wasn't something that he could contend against. This Zhuowen is too monstrous. I'm afraid I'm no match for him right now. Xu Liang's eyelids twitched when he saw the dark nether finger being blocked by the spiritual storm in the air, and the thought of retreating arose in his heart. If Zhuowen was merely a 2nd wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator, then Xu Liang wouldn't have taken him seriously. However, Zhuowen also possessed spiritual power at the initial stage of the 4th wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm. His strength was comparable to a 3rd wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. The current Zhuowen wasn't someone he could contend against at all. If he didn't retreat now, it was very likely that he would die here. Zhuowen, just you wait. Although you're a 4th rank Arcana Master, this is the Yuan Qi Tower. Your life and death are in the hands of the heavens. As long as you're still inside the Yuan Qi Tower, even if the Marquis of Baichuan's estate kills you, the Arcana Guild won't blame us. Xu Liang glared hatefully at Zhuowen and snorted coldly. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a shadow as he attempted to escape. You want to leave? Not so fast. Zhuowen's gaze sharpened. He slapped his Chenkuan pouch with his right hand, and countless rays of sword light flashed. The boundless sword aura, a 4th rank origin formation, immediately revolved around his body. At this time, Zhuowen's mental strength had completely reached the 4th rank. He could basically exert the full power of a 4th rank origin formation. Originally, there were 3 major sword moves in the boundless sword aura. Among them, Zhuowen only mastered the first sword move, Flying Sword Slash. However, ever since Zhuowen's mental strength reached the 4th rank, he instantly comprehended the last 2 major sword moves of the boundless sword aura. This was because when an Arcana Master's mental strength reached the 4th rank, his understanding of 4th rank origin formations would far surpass that of a 3rd rank Arcana Master. Naturally, he would be able to master the moves more easily. Falling Flower Wave Slash. The moment the boundless sword aura was summoned, Zhuowen divided a part of his mental strength and began to mobilize the second sword move of the boundless sword aura, Falling Flower Wave Slash. Clang clang clang. 108 cold sword-shaped spirit treasures turned into rays of cold light in the void. At this moment, they seemed to have turned into beautiful withered flowers, fluttering in the air. Endless waves of energy gushed out from the void. The falling flower-like sword light rode the wind and broke the waves. It was as fast as lightning and caught up with Xu Liang in an instant. Bastard! It's not that easy to kill me. Xu Liang, who was fleeing in a sorry state, also noticed the surging sword light behind him. His expression changed slightly. He quickly pulled out the black dragon halberd and waved his hands. Dense black light scattered and formed countless halberd shadows in front of him, trying to block the falling flower-like sword light behind him. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing resounded. Xu Liang's halberd shadows were like tofu, instantly turning into powder in front of the countless sword light. Xu Liang's pupils shrank. He finally felt a trace of fear in his heart. Zhuowen's strength was too strong. He was no match for him at all. He gritted his teeth and secretly said, "Damn it. Originally, this was the amulet that Big Brother gave me. I didn't expect to have to use it now." As he spoke, Xu Liang reached out to his chest and directly took out a blue jade pendant. The surface of the jade pendant was overflowing with light and color. It was very beautiful. Bang! Xu Liang directly crushed the jade pendant. The blue powder floated in front of Xu Liang like starlight. It actually annihilated the countless sword light in front of him. Immediately, the blue energy wrapped around Xu Liang like a cloud. Swoosh! Like a meteor, he directly turned into a blue light. As if he was shuttling through the void, he instantly disappeared from his original position. In the next moment, he was already hundreds of feet away. What? His speed is so fast that it's almost at the level of teleportation? Looking at Xu Liang, who instantly disappeared from his original position, Zhuowen's face was slightly shocked. It seemed that Xu Liang had a lot of treasures on him. At this juncture, he actually still had such a trump card to escape. No, this Xu Liang must not be let go. Otherwise, I will be in big trouble with the Baichuan Marquis residence. This Xu Liang must die. With a gloomy gaze, Zhuowen was very clear about the consequences if he let Xu Liang go. He coldly snorted and the lightning wings on his back suddenly opened. His entire body was like a human lightning bolt as he instantly chased after Xu Liang. At the same time, Zhuowen activated the mental energy in his Niwen palace to cover his entire body. His speed once again soared by several times and actually began to catch up with Xu Liang. What? How could this Zhuowen's speed be so fast? But this shuttling card is not just for show when it's praised as the fastest. Looking at the lightning figure behind him that was hundreds of feet away, Xu Liang was first shocked. Soon after, the corner of his mouth was filled with a cold smile. With a thought, the blue fog surrounding his body once again soared. Its speed was actually several times faster than before. In the time of 2 breaths, the distance between the two people that was originally hundreds of feet had now been pulled to nearly 100 feet. It can actually still increase speed. Right now, my speed is already at the limit. It is simply impossible to increase my speed any further. However, the strange blue light around Xu Liang's body is actually able to raise his speed to such a level. If this continues, Xu Liang will quickly escape. Zhuowen, who was chasing from behind, frowned slightly. Zhuowen, you better remember this. If you offend our Baichuan Marquis residence, so what if you are a rank 4 Arcana Master? We still have a way to kill you. Seeing that Zhuowen was being pulled further and further away from him, Xu Liang's heart was also relieved. His gaze converged on the figure of Zhuowen behind him as he shouted in an extremely arrogant and ruthless manner. Hearing this, Zhuowen's gaze suddenly sank. In his heart, the killing intent towards Xu Liang became even stronger. After hesitating for a moment, Zhuowen clenched his teeth and took out a golden talisman from his Chenkuan bag. He muttered, "I really did not expect that this life talisman would come in handy so soon. However, it is a bit of a waste to use it on Xu Liang." Although it was a bit painful, Zhuowen also knew that if he did not get rid of Xu Liang, there would be no end of trouble in the future. Using a life talisman was not a loss. Xu Liang, consider yourself unlucky. If I did not have a life talisman in my hands, perhaps I really would not be able to do anything to you. However, as of now, you can't escape even if you have wings. Without hesitation, Zhuowen instantly crushed the life talisman. Countless golden rays burst out and turned into a dazzling rain of light. The speed of the rain of light was extremely fast, almost reaching the speed of light. In an instant, it formed a huge golden barrier within a range of several hundred feet. The golden barrier just happened to cover Xu Liang in front of it. Boom! Xu Liang instantly crashed into the golden barrier. The powerful rebound force caused him to involuntarily retreat dozens of steps. His eyes were full of horror as he said, "What is this? Xu Liang, you can't escape. Prepare to go to the underworld to see Xu Qian and the other two." Whoosh! Zhuowen laughed loudly and instantly entered the golden barrier. The distance that was originally opened up by Xu Liang was surpassed in the blink of an eye. His figure flashed and arrived a few feet behind Xu Liang. "Damn it! Zhuowen, you actually still have this trick up your sleeve." Xu Liang turned around and looked at the young man in front of him. His gaze was extremely gloomy and there was even a trace of fear on his face. Ignoring Xu Liang's venomous gaze, Zhuowen took a light step forward and instantly closed in on Xu Liang. Countless amounts of mental energy burst out and turned into an invisible prison, trapping Xu Liang in place. Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and suddenly grabbed Xu Liang's neck and said, "Originally, I did not have any conflict of interest with you. It's just a pity that when there is, it's just so dramatic. You hunted down Qing Lian and the others to become stronger, but I killed you to repay a debt of gratitude. So when you enter the underworld, it's better to know your place. Zhuowen, you dare to kill me? Don't tell me you want to offend our house of Marquis of Baichuan." Xu Liang finally felt the fear of death. "I have completely offended your house of Marquis of Baichuan. There is no way out, so I can only kill you." Zhuowen shook his head. His right hand tightened and lifted Xu Liang up high. His eyes were filled with indifference and ruthlessness. "Stop." Chapter 464. A sense of crisis. The shout rolled over like thunder, the rippling sound waves containing an indescribable power under the support of Yuan Li. Everywhere the sound waves passed, trees collapsed, space distorted, and everything turned into a mess. Shocked, Zhuowen's gaze shifted slightly as he looked at the figure rapidly approaching from 1,000 miles away. His pupils shrank to the size of needles. Just the sound waves of this person's voice brought him great pressure. This wasn't something an ordinary cultivator could do. Xu Tianliang. Zhuowen's eyesight was so strong that he immediately saw the face of the figure rushing towards him with a murderous aura. Wasn't this the #1 genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate, Xu Tianliang? Big brother. Haha, Zhuowen, I told you you couldn't kill me. Now that my big brother is here, you're dead meat. Xu Liang, who was originally in despair, immediately revealed a look of ecstasy when he saw Xu Tianliang rushing towards him from 1,000 miles away. His gaze towards Zhuowen was filled with pride. "Reckless fellow. You're at my mercy now, yet you're still so arrogant." With a sinister gaze, Zhuowen coldly snorted and tightened his grip on Xu Liang's neck. Xu Liang's breathing quickened and his cheeks flushed red. The pride in his eyes instantly vanished. He was still in Zhuowen's hands. The youth before him could kill him with just a flick of his finger. "Zhuowen, my big brother is much stronger than me. Even if you're a 4th-rank Arcana master, you're still no match for my big brother, so your best option now is to let me go. Only then will you have a chance to live." Feeling the force on his neck, Xu Liang's face was filled with fear. His tone was much gentler and even seemed to be negotiating. In the distance, Xu Tianliang, who was rushing over, also saw Xu Liang's miserable state. Especially when he saw Xu Liang being lifted up by the neck with his right hand, he was shocked and angry. However, when he saw Zhuowen's face, he was stunned. "Zhuowen? Was it that Zhuowen from a low-level city? How is this possible? This kid is clearly only a 2nd-rank Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. How could he defeat my second brother?" Second younger brother even used his ultimate move, the Dark Underworld Finger. At this moment, Xu Tianliang's heart was in turmoil. He was well aware of Xu Liang's strength. Although he was only at the late stage of the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor Realm, when combined with the Dark Shadow Finger and Black Dragon Halberd, he was no weaker than a peak second wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Moreover, the second finger of the Dark Underworld Finger was even more powerful. Perhaps even a peak two-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand it. Its might was already comparable to a half-step three-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Xu Tianliang was very puzzled as to how Zhuowen had defeated Xu Liang. Zhuowen, let go of my second brother, or die. Although he had doubts in his heart, seeing Xu Liang being lifted up by Zhuowen with one hand, Xu Tianliang was extremely angry. This Zhuowen really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually dared to treat the people of Baichuan Marquis Mansion like this. He was simply courting death. Zhuowen, this Xu Tianliang is very strong. I'm afraid that he has already reached the peak of the Ultimate Emperor stage. Even if you have rank 4 lower tier spiritual power, I'm afraid that you won't be a match for Xu Tianliang. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Yes, I know. I originally thought that I would be able to kill Xu Liang without anyone knowing. I didn't expect to meet this Xu Tianliang halfway. It seems that this enmity with Baichuan Marquis Mansion is set. Nodding, Zhuowen suddenly clenched his right hand. The power of heaven and earth in his body formed a vortex-like cyclone and poured into Xu Liang's body, diagnosing the meridians in his body. Then, he pointed his right hand between Xu Liang's eyebrows and directly annihilated his sea of consciousness. Xu Liang's eyes widened as he stared at Zhuowen in disbelief. He also didn't expect that Zhuowen would actually kill him. Moreover, he didn't hesitate at all in front of his big brother. Xu Tianliang, I'll return your second brother to you. After killing Xu Liang, Zhuowen didn't stay any longer. With a toss of his right hand, he threw Xu Liang's body directly toward Xu Tianliang, who was rushing over from afar. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a lightning shadow and disappeared on the spot. With Xu Tianliang's cultivation, he naturally saw the scene clearly, especially the scene of Xu Liang being killed. He immediately became furious and roared, "Ah, Zhuowen, how dare you kill my second brother?" Boom! Xu Tianliang waved his right hand. As if the sky and earth changed color, a huge black palm that was hundreds of feet long appeared directly above Zhuowen's head from the depths of the void and immediately blasted down. Sensing the abnormality above his head, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Xu Tianliang was still a few hundred miles away, but he was still able to display such a powerful force from such a distance. It seemed that the experts on the Azure Emperor list could not be underestimated. Block it for me. Clenching his teeth, Zhuowen tried his best to activate the mental power in his Mudpill Palace. His mental power converged in the air like a tidal wave and formed an equally huge transparent palm. Then, it clashed with the black palm in the sky. Boom! When the two palms collided, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. The astral wind that flowed out of the space crack was like the sharpest blade in the world. It overflowed in all directions and turned the forest below into fine powder. The ground cracked into gravel. Puff! Zhuowen's face turned pale and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. He was thrown away and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The power of Xu Tianliang's casual attack was actually so strong. Fortunately, Zhuowen's mind power was not weak. Although he was at a disadvantage, he still annihilated the huge black palm in the void. Xu Tianliang is too strong. He is much stronger than LV Yongsheng. Zhuowen, run quickly. Don't let him catch up with you. Otherwise, you will probably die in his hands today. At this time, Xiao Hei's voice sounded a little anxious. The thunder wings on his back opened and closed, instantly stabilizing his flying figure. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. He stepped into the void and did not dare to exchange blows with Xu Tianliang again. The latter's strength was too terrifying. Even if he used all his trump cards now, he was afraid that he would not be a match for him. This mind power is so strong. It has actually surpassed the scope of a third-rank arcanist. Is this kid a fourth-rank arcanist? Xu Tianliang, who was behind, also revealed a trace of surprise after seeing the black palm being destroyed. In particular, the huge palm condensed by Zhuowen's mind power just now was not something that an ordinary arcanist could produce. No wonder even second brother was not a match for this kid. He is a fourth-rank arcanist. Xu Tianliang's eyes darkened, his face filled with murderous intent. He was well aware of how high the status of a rank 4 Arcana Master was in the outside world. Unfortunately, this was the Origin Energy Tower. Even if a rank 4 Arcana Master died inside, the Arcana Guild wouldn't care. I really didn't expect this kid's talent in mind power to be so terrifying. If I can't kill this kid in the Vitality Tower, it is even more impossible to kill him outside. I must kill this Zhuowen as soon as possible. Xu Tianliang's mind was very clear. Zhuowen was only 18 or 19 years old. To be able to become a 4th rank Arcanist at this age meant that his future was limitless. If he was not killed now, there would be no chance at all in the future. Thinking of this, Xu Tianliang no longer held back. His figure flashed out like a ghost and instantly closed the distance between them. At this time, he was only a few dozen kilometers away from Zhuowen, and this distance was still slowly shortening. Zhuowen, you can't escape today. Those who kill my Baichuan Marquis residents will never have a good ending. If I, Xu Tianliang, catch you, I will make you beg for death. Xu Tianliang's face was full of murderous intent as he carried Xu Liang's body in his right hand. Xu Liang's death was too big a blow to him. After all, this was his only brother. Now that he was dead, how could he let it go? Moreover, Zhuowen's talent also gave him a sense of crisis. This Xu Tianliang is really difficult to deal with. Feeling Xu Tianliang's aura getting closer and closer behind him, Zhuowen could not help but feel his scalp tingle. Xu Tianliang was too strong, giving him a feeling that he could not resist. No. This Xu Tianliang is after all a warrior at the peak of the ultimate 3-wheel emperor realm. His strength and speed are much faster than mine. In this chase, he will definitely catch up. I must slow him down. A trace of ruthlessness appeared in Zhuowen's eyes. With a wave of his right hand, the infinite sword aura surrounding him buzzed. 108 cold sword-shaped spirit treasures turned into countless sword lights and rushed toward Xu Tianliang behind him. Revolving Heaven Sword danced 9 consecutive moves. Zhuowen did not hesitate to use the most powerful third sword move of the limitless sword aura, the Heavenly Sword danced 9 consecutive moves. This Xu Tianliang's strength was too strong. If Zhuowen did not use his full strength, it was impossible to stop his pursuit. In an instant, countless sword lights filled the air. The cold light was biting cold. Hundreds of feet behind Zhuowen, the sword lights gathered to form a huge sword light domain. A sharp sword chi that penetrated the heavens and the earth shot out, changing the color of the world. Xu Tianliang, who was chasing from behind, had a serious expression. Zhuowen's strength had somewhat exceeded his expectations. Just the power of the sword light domain that suddenly appeared made him feel a little tricky. Underworld Shadow Finger, one finger to shock the heavens and earth. With a cold snort, Xu Tianliang stretched out his right index finger and pointed at the void. The surrounding vitality boiled and the space distorted. Above the void behind him, a huge hole suddenly split open. A huge black finger that was nearly 1,000 feet long slowly stretched out. The power of Xu Tianliang's dark shadow finger was much stronger than Xu Tianliang's. Just the aura of the first finger was already more powerful than the second finger that Xu Tianliang had just used. The sword light domain was like countless hurricanes. Wrapped in sharp sword lights, it suddenly blasted toward the huge black finger that was descending from the void. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound rolled out. The surrounding space instantly collapsed. The resulting ripples formed a ring-shaped airwave that overflowed in all directions. A tragic aura surged out. The revolving Heaven Sword dance 9 consecutive moves was the most powerful move of the infinite sword aura. The sword light trembled slightly, but it did not fall. Instead, the surrounding powerful sword lights continued to cut the huge black finger in the void. Chapter 465. Escape. Xu Tianliang's pupils shrank when he saw that the dark shadow finger was instantly destroyed. He did not expect that Zhuowen's sword light domain would be so powerful that it could not even withstand the first finger of the dark shadow finger. The might of an initial grade 4 mental energy coupled with a grade 4 origin array is indeed extraordinary. It actually broke Xu Tianliang's dark nether finger. Zhuo Wen, who was fleeing in front, looked at the dissipating dark nether finger and said with a joyful expression, "A mere grade 4 origin array dares to stop me? Second finger weeps ghosts and gods. Break it." Just as the dark shadow finger dissipated, Xu Tianliang's roar, which was filled with killing intent, resounded through the sky. In an instant, the sky changed color. Rumble. The dark clouds in the sky dissipated and the fog was annihilated. A huge hole exploded in the void and a black finger, which was like a 1,000 feet tall mountain, slowly emerged from the hole. The 1,000 feet tall finger was surrounded by a strange black gas and countless ghosts were faintly discernible. The terrifying wails of ghosts and howls of wolves resounded through the sky. When the 1,000 feet tall finger appeared, the surrounding thousands of feet of space collapsed, forming countless vacuum zones. The second finger of the dark shadow finger was actually so powerful. Just the aura it revealed could actually collapse space. Bang! 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 The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The 1,000 feet tall finger pointed at the void and directly pointed at the countless sword light domain below. The powerful force actually shattered countless black forests below. Countless holes appeared on the ground and the earth cracked. Clang! 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 The sword light domain formed by the revolving heaven sword dance 9 consecutive moves was like a whirlpool in water. The spiraling power strangled all the surrounding space. Countless sword lights flickered and the sound of metal clashing continuously resounded. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000 feet tall finger and the sword light domain collided. The surroundings immediately collapsed and a ring-shaped black hole appeared. A powerful suction force was continuously transmitted from the black hole. Buzz! A shrill sword howl resounded through the heavens and the earth, and the sword light domain that covered an extremely wide area actually collapsed directly. Countless sword lights dispersed and transformed into 108 sword-shaped spirit treasures that had a dim luster, and they wailed in unison before flying back into Zhuo Wen's Chenkuan pouch. Zhuo Wen's mind trembled violently when his infinite sword force was thwarted. He let out a muffled groan as a trace of cherry-red blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He didn't dare to stay here any longer as he turned into a lightning shadow and fled forward again. "Zhuowen, you can't escape. Although your mental energy is at the initial grade 4 spirit realm, if you meet an ordinary 3-wheel ultimate emperor realm warrior, you would not be in such a sorry state. But unfortunately, you met me." Seeing Zhuo Wen spurting out blood and fleeing, Xu Tianliang laughed heartily. Then, he stamped his foot on the void, and continued to chase after Zhuo Wen like an arrow leaving the bowstring. Originally, the two of them were several hundred feet apart. But, Zhuo Wen's speed had obviously decreased because the sword light domain had been broken. In 3 breaths, the two of them were only 50 feet apart. Zhuo Wen, who was in front, could even hear the rustling of Xu Tianliang's clothes fluttering behind him. That sound directly made Zhuo Wen's scalp tingle. "Boy, Xu Tianliang is less than 50 feet away from you. Now, you must use your last natal talisman to completely stop him." Xiao Hei's dignified voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen's eyes flashed with a trace of helplessness. He had just obtained the natal talisman not long ago. Unexpectedly, he had to use it consecutively today. This naturally made Zhuo Wen feel extremely pained. Whoosh! Xu Tianliang leaped again and closed the distance between him and Zhuo Wen. This distance was slowly shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. 50 feet. 40 feet. 30 feet. 20 feet. 10 feet. "Boy, don't use your natal talisman. Otherwise, if you are really caught by Xu Tianliang, even if you use it, it will be useless." Xiao Hei's voice became somewhat exasperated and even a little cold. "Ari. Got it." Feeling that the aura behind him was extremely close, Zhuo Wen's heart was filled with helplessness. His right hand took out a golden talisman that appeared in his palm. Immediately, Zhuo Wen directly crushed it. Suddenly, countless rays of light burst out. A golden barrier instantly appeared behind Zhuo Wen. Golden light overflowed in all directions. It was as hard as steel and surging aura constantly flowed out. What is this?" Xu Tianliang was caught off guard and directly crashed into the golden barrier. He could not help but take a few steps back, and his pupils slightly shrank. Humph! No matter what this is, break it for me. With a cold snort, Shu Tianliang's right hand formed into a claw. Boundless heaven and earth energy swept out and slammed into the golden barrier in front of him. With a rumble, the golden barrier collapsed and turned into countless rays of golden light. Boom! 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 Shu Tianliang was like a hot knife through butter. It was almost as if he could directly shatter the golden barrier in front of him with a single claw. This scene caused Zhuowen's heart to beat wildly. The golden barrier formed by the natal talisman was extremely powerful. It was enough to trap an early-stage ultimate emperor realm cultivator. However, in Shu Tianliang's hands, it was like tofu and shattered with a single claw. This truly caused Zhuowen's jaw to drop. Whoosh! After shattering all the golden barriers, Shu Tianliang's momentum did not decrease. He directly swept towards Zhuowen at a speed that was even faster than before. He did not want to play a game of cat and mouse with Zhuowen anymore. He wanted to capture Zhuowen alive as soon as possible. Humph! A life talisman amulet does not only have this much power. Shu Tianliang's strength caused Zhuowen's pupils to shrink. He hurriedly formed a series of seals with both hands. The golden talisman in his hand burned like fire and turned into a rain of light. The dense rain of light condensed above the void and finally turned into a golden figure that resembled a god descending to the mortal world. This was the move that Liu Che had used before. Boom! As soon as the golden figure appeared, he took a step in the void. His right fist formed streaks of blazing golden light. It was like a small sun as it blasted towards Shu Tianliang, who was behind him. Get lost! Shu Tianliang's face was full of impatience. After chasing Zhuowen for so many times to no avail, Shu Tianliang had gradually lost his patience. Now that he saw the golden figure recklessly provoking him, he was naturally infuriated. His right hand formed into a claw and Shu Tianliang directly grabbed at the golden figure's fist. Boom! Countless forces flew and the space shattered into a vacuum. Shu Tianliang's face changed slightly. The power of the golden figure was somewhat beyond his imagination. He could not help but take a few steps back. The golden figure was much more miserable than Shu Tianliang. His right arm was directly shattered into countless golden lights. He was directly sent flying more than 10 meters away before he could barely stand still. Seeing this scene, Zhuowen's face became even more unsightly. Previously, Zhuowen had worked himself to death to barely defeat the golden figure. However, Shu Tianliang's ordinary blow caused such severe damage to the golden figure. This made Zhuowen's heart sink slightly. I have to directly stimulate all the potential of the golden figure. Otherwise, I can't block it at all. Gritting his teeth, Zhuowen pinched his sword finger with his right hand. The surging power of heaven and earth poured into the body of the golden figure in the void like a tide. The golden figure roared to the sky. Golden light burst out from his body like a scorching sun and gradually grew. 1 foot. 2 feet. 3 feet. 100 feet. 200 feet. 300 feet. 500 feet. In the end, the golden figure turned into a 500 feet tall golden giant. It was like a vast mountain. Every step it took caused the entire valley to shake. With a wave of its hand, the forest below was turned into powder. Its power was vast and mighty. Go! After stimulating the potential of the golden figure, Zhuowen did not stop. The thunder wings on his back suddenly opened and closed. He directly disappeared into the depths of the forest. Zhuowen! You can't escape! Shu Tianliang roared angrily. He stomped his foot and wanted to chase after Zhuowen. Unfortunately, the golden giant would not let him do as he wished. Boom! The mountain-like golden fist directly crossed in front of Shu Tianliang. The golden light burst and turned into countless light rain that enveloped Shu Tianliang. Get out of my way! Seeing that Zhuowen was about to disappear from his sight, Shu Tianliang's face was ferocious. He pointed his right finger and shouted, 1 finger shocks the world, 2 fingers weep ghosts and gods. Die, die, die! Boundless vital chi surged, and 2 cracks appeared in the void. Two mountain-like black fingers appeared and descended with a rumble, directly bombarding the golden giant's body, blasting it into countless rays of golden light. Whoosh! After dealing with the golden giant cleanly, Shu Qianliang's eyes were red. He stomped his foot on the void and directly chased in the direction of Zhuowen's escape. In the dense forest thousands of miles away, Shu Qianliang stomped his foot and stopped. He looked around and his face became more ferocious. Because when he arrived here, Zhuowen's aura had disappeared directly, as if it had never appeared. Ah! Shu Qianliang roared to the sky. Countless black vital qi burst out from his body. Like a huge mountain, it directly descended. The dense forest thousands of feet below directly turned into tragic ruins. Zhuowen, you can't escape. No matter where you go, as long as you are still in the vital qi tower, you will be hunted down endlessly by me, Shu Qianliang. You are dead. A thunderous voice reverberated between heaven and earth. Shu Qianliang's gloomy eyes swept the area below. He stomped his foot and directly left the place. However, Shu Qianliang did not notice that in the ruins below, there was an insignificant small stone that did not turn into powder under the energy just now. Instead, it was intact. If he had noticed it, he might have suspected that there was something wrong with the stone. It seems that Shu Qianliang has really left. A weak voice rang out from within the pebble. Shortly after, the pebble began to expand. In the end, it transformed into a black castle that was dozens of meters tall. This black castle was the nether castle that Zhuowen had obtained from the Nether King. The Netherworld castle's sturdiness was comparable to an earthly soul treasure. Although Shu Qianliang's large-scale attack was powerful, it was not enough to destroy the Netherworld castle. Thanks to the Netherworld castle's ability to shrink and enlarge. If I didn't hide in the castle, I'm afraid it would be difficult to escape Shu Qianliang's search. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.